Hello, everyone. It is time for Revolutionary Change. It's Saturday night. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager. And look at that, Jen. We are actually in sync right off the bat.
It's pretty good. Did you go get yourself a tripod?
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, see how nice that is? See how nice that is? So professional of you.
I mean, I tried, don't I? I try to make the best effort I can.
You have your moments.
I'm not too shabby sometimes. I'm sorry to have dragged you out for this, but we're very happy that you're here. You won't have to stay the whole time if you don't want to. That's entirely your call. But leave it to our trusty sidekick, Rachel, to let you know that, yes, you are tasked with being here two Saturdays a month. So that way we can give our audience what they so rightfully deserve, which is a call-in show. Make sure that you guys smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you share the stream. This is Saturday night. Don't know what you guys are up to, but it is only 6 o'clock my time. So wherever you are, this is hopefully a great start to your weekend. And we're going to enjoy having this call-in segment. You guys are going to have an opportunity to either give us the business or talk about things that you're interested in. Jen, any thoughts before we kick things off?
You mean about doing our second call-in show?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. I'm just playing it by ear. We're going to see how it goes. Let's see what people want to chat about today.
Well, there's obviously a lot of things to cover, and obviously the topics could range from things that we were planning on covering either on our own later on this evening or ones that you're going to want to talk about yourselves. Obviously, it is not entirely surprising on two fronts. We have been trying to explain to people for the longest time. There is nothing wrong with liking or even supporting Bernie Sanders or AOC, but if you think that they are movement leaders, that they are people that are going to always do the right thing, especially in times of crisis, which is really when you find out who the real leaders are and are really going to do what is necessary in trying times. We have seen on two occasions already in the past 24 hours, the first one being AOC's decision to not join Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib on Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment that was supposed to be part of the latest spending bill to not give another $500 million to Israel. She couldn't even do that. And then, of course, Bernie Sanders having a one-on-one meeting with Zohran, and it's already been leaked that one of the things that Bernie discussed with Zohran is to go to take it a little easy on Israel. You know, you're taking it a little too hard.
Are you serious? Like that? I didn't know. So how do we know that for sure, though? We weren't privy to the meeting.
No, but you know how it goes. Somebody always wants to let it kind of like leak out. And whatever his reasoning is, even if his reasoning in his mind is that this is how you're going to win in November. Look, if he was able to win the primary with everything working against him, I think he knows what he needs to do to win the general.
I don't understand how we know what was talked about between him and Bernie, though.
Well, if it wasn't, alone, if it wasn't recorded, but it may have had, other people present. And there's always one person who will say, yeah, that's not cool. We should definitely address this. So that's my thought. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening with him. Again, I am reserving judgment until he actually gets through. There's no reason for me to figure out what his motives are. Until he does or doesn't do something, right? That's sort of the point. We're just pointing out red flags that we see.
Well, there's always one to go around for sure. Let's get things started. If you guys would like to call in, of course, you do have to be either a YouTube member or a patron on our Patreon. And remember, our Patreon is patreon.com/revolutionary change. Now, if you're thinking about becoming a member and you really want to call in to the show this evening, you can always sign up. We certainly accept new recruits. It looks like we've got at least one already in Jordan Jardine. Thank you so very much for becoming a YouTube member. And JM has already gotten us off to a $2 super chat. So thank you very much for that. And of course, as we alluded to, you can support these conversations on the regular at patreon.com/revolutionary change.
So are we going to get into that whole song and dance?
Which song and dance?
About Marjorie Taylor Greene and the resolution, how we only have apparently how many people? 6 people total, including her. Yeah,
Mhm.
that have like any
Let's
sense
hold
of
it.
this.
I've got the clip of her. We'll hold off on that. But this is why, and people were asking, because we put out the tweet and it's done pretty well. And people are asking, why don't we address Jasmine Crockett? It's like, look, Jasmine Crockett has been on our channel multiple times. We were never under the illusion that Jasmine was a progressive or a true leader of a populist left movement under any circumstances. She's a total career politician. Now, is she as bad as others? No, but again, it's still the Democratic Party, and she seeks to be one of the leaders in that party, which means that she's going to go right along with what everybody else is doing.
As far as anybody who wants to be involved in leadership of a party going nowhere deserves everything that they get when they get to the helm of that ship, because this party, if it still exists by the time the people that we're speaking about get to an age where they would be like in charge of the party, it won't be there anymore. You guys are the last people that are watching it run itself into the ground, and yet that's what you're putting your integrity on the line for. That's what's it's so it's very short-sighted and very non-clairvoyant for them to be like, do they not see what's happening? They think they can rescue the party and bring it back by doubling down on the same shit that the older version of you all are doing. I don't think so.
Colin, if you would, for anybody who wants to call in, or actually that I think is the call-in stage. But Colin, if you could just explain briefly what anyone would need to do if they would like to call in this evening.
Yes, so if you're a member on either, let's say you're a member on YouTube, just go to the community tab on YouTube or specifically on Revolutionary Change's page, and you'll see the Zoom link right there where you can join. And if you're on Patreon, I'm pretty sure we posted on there as well, the same thing. Click the Zoom link to join. And then once you're in, just at the very bottom, there's an emoji thing you can click, and it has a raise hand button, and that'll sort of put you in the queue from who raised their hand first. And if you don't raise your hand, then we'll probably get to you anyways at some point. But and yeah, if you guys have any issues, just put it in chat real quick or something, and we'll try to address it.
All right, you guys got up to an hour, so let's see.
All right, thank you, Colin.
Let's have some fun. We always appreciate, and again, I think being active with your audience, I think is very important. I think it's also a way of us saying thank you for how far we've come, and we've certainly come pretty far. So we really appreciate it. I think Clint is here a little early. Clint, we will. If you check the message, we're going to do 8:15. I know I see you there already, brother. I sent you a message. So if all is well and good, let's do it in an hour. We're doing our call-in segment. If you want to watch, it's perfectly
There you
fine.
go. He left. He's like, I don't need this.
Yeah. It's like, you don't have to tell me. I'll go have dinner now.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Colin. Who do we have as our number one?
Who is mystery guest number one?
Mm.
All right.
No, Travers, that is not happening. Thank you for the thought, though.
Nobody yet. Once again, we're just waiting for someone to come and join.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. If there's nobody there, we'll just sit here and choose. I wanted to show you something, Peter, anyway, that I made for you. I made something for you. I updated your pontificating with Pete thumbnail for the new show.
Oh boy.
It's not, no, it's just, it's a more updated version of the pontificating with Pete graphic.
Okay.
Why won't it put it in? I keep trying to, hold on. I'm trying to do it. It won't let me there. Wait, there.
Ah, that's, I mean, I don't really talk about sports, but I'll take it.
It looked like your type of vibe. I made it thinking this was like your vibe.
Oh, I agree. I think it's great. Well,
yeah.
done.
See, there you go. That's what I made for you.
That's a good couple of beers and some potatoes. That's what I want to see. I'm very great.
That is what I made for you for when you're doing your pontification.
All right. I think we've got our first caller.
All right, let's do it.
All right, Colin, who do we got?
I don't know.
Well, the technical.
You know what it is? Seriously, Peter, it's like, I think that you think people want to talk to us more than they actually do. And this is what I've been telling you, like, especially on a Saturday night. Like, why does anybody want to call and talk to us on a Saturday night?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it worked out the first time. You're trying to just weasel your way out. I think
I'm just saying, I don't think anybody needs to talk to me.
Well, I mean, you're okay to talk to, it depends if it's a topic that you want to talk about. If it's something that isn't of any interest to you, like sports ball and stuff.
I'll talk about some sports. That's true. I'll talk football. I'll talk football, occasional basketball. And then that's pretty much it. Although I really do. I like the Gaelic football.
You mean rugby?
No.
Okay.
It's not rugby. It's Gaelic football. It's really cool. It's in Ireland. And I think that's where like the whole league might only exist in Ireland. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but it's like a combination of rugby and soccer, but it's just more entertaining to watch to me than soccer.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. I thought you would actually dig it if you ever saw it.
Yeah,
all I know is a whole bunch of cute boys running around in on a screen, and they don't wear helmets or shoulder pads or anything. So they're dressed like soccer, but the ball looks more like a rugby ball, but you can throw it or kick it, but it's not a rugby ball.
Interesting. So it's like a combination.
It is. It's kind of cool. Yeah. They take it seriously. That's what I can tell you.
Colin, talk to us. What's going on? If we're going to do it, we could always do a segment. We can always, do our little chat first.
We have people now. Let's make sure we can hear them. Joaquin, I think you were here first. If you want to unmute, and we'll see if it works.
He was hoping. Thanks for checking in, Jess.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Kane, how's it going?
Oh, hello. Good, great. Great to finally talk to y'all guys. Love your show. I really called in basically on the last topic of the last show. You were talking about the Epstein-Trump thing, and I think that's important to, go over, I guess.
No, it's a really dumb topic. We don't want to talk about it. It's really silly.
You're still stuck on that Jeffrey Epstein, that guy, that loser. You're still stuck on that?
Yeah, I've been doing my research basically more and more, especially since it came out. Peter said that it's like the JFK files. We're never going to really know, but there's definitely enough circumstantial evidence. And I've been digging into like the Michael Wolff stuff where Epstein said that Trump dropped a dime on him because they had a falling out over a mansion, but he knew what Epstein was doing. Virginia Guffrey talking about Ahmed Barak, I forgot the president of Israel, and Dershowitz. I mean, the evidence is pretty much there. Do we really need to see the files? There's so much circumstantial evidence. And I even looked up a case from 94 where a 12-year-old girl named Maria is accusing Trump of basically forcing her to do stuff. But the lady in that lawsuit, or the girl, said she was essayed by Epstein 4 times in 94, and Trump had personally threatened to kill her. And that the little girl's like, this girl named Maria, it's in the files, she disappeared. And she was 12 years old, according to the lawsuit. That's when everybody tried to throw those lawsuits at, but it was even back then. And I'm just appalled at some of the people, like women, especially supporting Trump. I'm like, what, would you think it was an honor that he grabbed you by the pussy? And it's like, they're covering for this guy. And I don't get it.
Well, is it really, I mean, let's in all reality, that's what they've been doing with every president I feel like we've had, other than maybe Obama. He might have been in that particular regard, other than Obama. But like when you look at Biden, I mean, we had an interview a few years ago with Tara Reid. We've had her on this show. So it's, this is someone who actually did grab someone by the pussy. And we were yet supposed to be convinced that that's the better option than the man who said, grab him by the pussy. Right.
Yeah. The other problem.
Yeah, it's all gross. Don't get me wrong. It's all gross. But I think that at this point, we're so like used to this.
Yeah. And I think that the bigger problem here is that we do live in a country where there is a capitulation to money and power in ways that are completely depraved, including sexual assault, child trafficking, among other things. And, as men, I mean, I see it all the time with women in particular defending, not necessarily just outright defending the behavior of these men, but pointing the finger at the women, saying that it's your fault. Like, they did something wrong. Like, they don't have to force themselves on you. There's always an excuse. And I saw that in great detail, particularly when Tara was accusing Biden. You saw a lot of women that were anti-Trump who were saying, "Oh, you're everybody else tells the truth, but you're lying because it goes against our team." And the whole tribalism of politics, I think, is also still playing a role. But the one thing I've noticed, is perhaps you've noticed as well, is that a significant portion of MAGA is not on board with this. Like, they really, this is a point of no return for a lot of people. They're basically saying,
Teflon Don. Yeah.
Well,
this is one thing, Teflon Don. I don't think. Yeah.
One thing that I think that you're very right about, though, is it doesn't matter if the files ever get released. It really doesn't matter. I don't think anything would be different in terms of accountability, real punishment and accountability. There would be all sorts of, at this point, they've put out enough plausible doubt. They'd be like, the files have been tampered with, all of this stuff, that there wouldn't ever be real accountability anyway. So I think it's just good that we know we know that this is what was going on.
Especially if you're doing your research, like Alex Acosta, the guy that gave him the DA at the time of Florida, gave him a sweetheart deal, even said, "Hey, I was told to back off the guy. I know this is above your pay grade. He's intelligence." They didn't say which kind of intelligence, but that's his own statement from, Alex Acosta. I think it's something like that.
Yeah,
I think he was the housing secretary.
He was definitely, I think Epstein was definitely a Mossad asset. Whether or not he worked, got a paycheck or anything, I have no idea what the arrangement was. But I think it's pretty clear based on how he lived and what he was like. How was he able to afford to live like that? Like, there were so many question marks about who is Jeffrey Epstein? Like, how did he get to where he was? He, like all of these ridiculous things, that it really is clear that he was being supported somehow, somewhere that wasn't completely above board.
Well, I just
want to make one last quick point so other people can get on.
Yeah.
One last quick point was about, now I forgot it. Well, basically, I know what I was going to say. These are the same people that believe in Jewish space lasers and gay frogs. And a lot of them are denying, what's going on. But it's a real thing. There's real evidence. He did say that he works, so I'm glad that MAGA is also turning on him because if not, he might have been a dictator next time if he had that much support. But if his base turns on him a little bit, it's good news for us because nobody wants to see Trump, become a Hitler.
No, we don't want to see. No, we don't want to see that. But more importantly, we do want to see a splinter in the party. If we can get a faction of the Republican Party that splinters off in an anti-war, more libertarian capacity, that's actually good. And in the way that it pulls power from that. So I think it's good that we're seeing it. But yeah,
agreed. Joaquin,
appreciate y'all. Thank you for letting me join.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling.
I'm JG. Yeah.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Now, who do we got next?
Yeah, not everybody loves the whole Epstein thing. And I think that it is important in that it really does show that sort of the real insidious nature of our relationship with the relationship between empire and the Zionist state, and how that works and how it controls our stuff.
Well, and we all know that the person who is probably as directly connected to Epstein as anybody is Les Wexner, and he is still a free man to this day. So that would be a great example of somebody who, if you really want to point the finger at somebody who's alive and breathing, since we all want to say, oh, Epstein's dead. Well, you know what? Les Wexner's out there, man. But he's a multi-billionaire, and he's got a lot of money and a lot of power. And that's what it comes down to. So who do we have next, Colin?
Tony is up next.
Okay.
Tony D.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Very good, Tony. How's everything going?
Oh, great. Hello, Jen and Peter.
Hi. Is this Tony D?
Yes.
Hi.
I discovered your show about 4 years ago, I think, when you did the Assange telethon with Katie Halper and Lee Camp and Rob Cohn and Chris Hedges. I knew Katie way before that, but I think that was the first time I saw your show. And I definitely remember the old format of the show when you had the shirts and everything in the garage. And you had that fun music right before the show. Now it's loud rock and roll music.
Look, he's blaming me, but I wanted a little facelift. Besides, the music and the other countdown was just any elevator type music. Like I've heard it on other things. It was so okay. It was never really like, we never picked it. It was just sort of like stuck there because it was just easy. I don't know. We needed a facelift. It was time.
We've had a couple of feedback from people saying that they like the rebrand. They're not crazy about the music. Okay.
I know. I did pick it because I thought it was fun, and it makes me sit here and kind of groove. Like, I don't know. you know,
I like it. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what's
I
on your mind?
understand the reasons for the rebrand.
So what's on your mind to chat about, Tony?
I just saw the new Superman film. It really is as good as people say. It really does touch on the Palestine-Israel conflict without naming it at all. There are these fictional countries in the film, Jaipur and Moravia. And Moravia is a stand-in for Israel. Their president definitely looks like Netanyahu, and he has this Polish accent. And then Lex Luthor is portrayed as this evil tech billionaire similar to Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. And I really enjoyed that. And it's not
I
even
have not
subtle,
seen it. I have not seen it.
I think you would like it, even if you don't like these movies a lot. I don't see a lot of superhero movies, but I really enjoyed this.
Well, I think the whole motivation on a lot of people's part, which I think is going to bring in a lot more revenue for the film, is just the fact that there is this anti-Israel, pro-Palestine message, that it's actually very, it's not even covert as much as it's overt, even if they've changed the names. I mean, we've known lots of movies over the years that have done things like that without outright saying that this is Israel and this is Palestine. Or, you know, I've heard some criticism by people saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have to pray for Superman to come and save you. Well, obviously not. But just the fact that that message is reaching millions upon millions of people and they're putting two and two together, I think is a great thing.
Yeah. Do you know other films with those kind of messages, Peter? I'm just curious.
Well, one of the greatest films ever made was Casablanca, and this was made in 1942 at kind of like the height of the Second World War. And the whole, you know, concept of like the letters of transit and, you know, the relationship between, you know, the United States and France, and obviously France and Germany, they really weren't hiding necessarily what the atrocities of the war was, because many people didn't really find out, let's say, about, you know, the death camps and things like that. I mean, there were rumors about it, but, you know, there wasn't as much overt talk about that type of thing until after the war. And then, of course, you had The Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin. That's another movie that was really well done, and it was a mockumentary in a way. And we've seen it throughout history. There's always been, different ways of dealing with conflict. I mean, we're not living through Vietnam where you had different types of movies during the war, after the war, music, the impact that had. We don't really have that today.
Oh, every movie, all these movies to me look like they could be born from the military-industrial complex.
That's the point.
Well, they are all vetted by the Pentagon and whoever other deep state powers get to have an okay as to what gets released.
They didn't vet this one. If they did, they made a really shitty job of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, some things obviously slide by, but the end result is that they all promote war and violence to some extent. And that's the message, is that there's others and that it is conflict and we have to live like that and there has to be violence. And that's essentially what all of those movies promote, is some sort of fear mongering about another type of people.
You can also tell that there was a huge shift, particularly in the post 9/11 era, when a lot of these films started coming out that were extremely jingoistic and extremely pro-military. Because if you think about the greatest war movies that were ever made, and in my opinion, probably the best is Apocalypse Now. And the message that was delivered in that film was that war is hell in the most profound way possible. And of course, we were privileged enough to have Oliver Stone on our channel, and we did talk about Platoon and the impact that. And he, remember, what made Platoon such an incredible film, not just for its anti-war message, and that, just the performances of DeVoe, Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger was absolutely incredible as a psychopathic soldier in that film. What is, to me, so incredibly reflective upon that moment is the fact that it was done at the height of Reagan's presidency. And at a time where, you remember, Platoon came out the same year as Top Gun. So you're not normally going to see that type of juxtaposition on movies of that magnitude, because they were the two biggest blockbusters of that year. One that was very pro-military industrial complex and one that is essentially anti in so many ways. And so there are a lot of hidden messages that are out there. But I would say ever since 9/11, I mean, with rare exceptions, like Syriana with George Clooney, like it's been universally pro-military industrial complex is what all these movies are. And what's even more amazing is that all of the Vietnam movies that came out when Jen was a little tyke, and of course I do remember Full Metal Jacket, they started making Vietnam movies like post 9/11, and they made them into like these like very like almost pro-war type films. So there was like this revisionist history that was going on. So I think that's why the reaction to the Superman movie is so profound, because people haven't seen anything like this in a very long time. Like a movie that just a major motion picture that takes a direct shot at the military industrial complex.
Are you guys still tight with Graham Elwood?
Sure. Yeah.
He used to talk about movies on his channel all the time, with a lot of great discussions about the military and their history of being involved in cinema. He'd be great for this kind of conversation.
I would be happy to have Graham on and talk, war movies with him. That would be right up your alley, Peter, to like have like a discussion with Graham about movies.
Graham's also a huge advocate for cryptocurrency. Well, particularly Bitcoin. He's not really a crypto guy, but he's just somebody who thinks that we need to be invested.
But we could do that. We could do something where we address, like, we could talk about war movies. Maybe we could get Oliver Stone to come back on.
I would try again. He's, kind of like Jesse Ventura. He's become pretty reclusive at this point. I'm trying to get a hold of him for a while. But
I totally respect that. But yeah, that's a really good idea. We would do that.
Tony, it is always a pleasure. And also want to say, when we did that live stream for Assange, that was in the infantile stages of this channel. It was a very bold move on our part, particularly Jen's. It was really Jen and Katie kind of sort of hatched this idea. And it ended up helping our channel grow in the interim, but we got shadow banned.
Like we got that was that was what really stunted the channel to be able to grow, how a lot of channels would grow exponentially based on the algorithm. Doing that Assange-a-thon was one of the things that I think kept us out of that benefit of the algorithm.
100%. But because of supporters like you who have been with us basically for the entire run, we can't thank you enough. We know you are a very supportive member of our channel, and we are always happy to see you here. And we hope you'll come back again and give us more insights. And we thank you very much, obviously, for calling in this evening.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Anytime.
Please.
All righty, Colin. Number 3. Who do we got as number 3?
All right. Next up, we have Jordan Jardine.
All right. Jordan Jardine, our new YouTube.
A new member.
Jordan, how's it going?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you?
Okay, I'm good. I don't really know where to start. Well, I guess I'll start with I was introduced to your show, I don't know how many months ago, by Willie Bragg. He's a friend of mine, and so and I think you guys have talked before.
Yeah,
but yeah, but yeah, I really like the like the show, and I don't know, I think the first thing that I'd like to talk about is just that I'm really I didn't prepare what I was going to say, so I apologize.
that's okay. That's okay.
But I am kind of nervous about the whole Medicaid and Social Security thing, because as my name here suggests, I am neurodivergent. I have multiple defects, hydrocephalus. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's water on the brain, basically. So I do have that. I had a stroke when I was 12 and I survived. And I'm almost in a few weeks I'll be 29. So still here, still alive and kicking, but I'm really nervous about the Medicaid and Social Security issue, because those are my only resources. Like I tried to work and it was a disaster. Bosses, just they don't understand how to deal with, and there's a little bit of improvement that's been happening over the past few decades, but still they don't know, especially if you're in a small rural area where I am, they don't care really to learn anything, and they don't really care to work with people, even when they say, because I was promised, oh yes, we'll totally work with you, but that was total bullshit, honestly. And I wasn't treated very well, and so I've been out of work for a while, and I probably will never work for anybody but myself ever again, and hopefully I'll get some traction going, but on my own channel. And I wrote a book, but that nobody's read or bought except my parents. So, but like, so it's just been really hard, and so that stuff is really has really been grating on me, And
I think, Jordan, it's a reflection in many ways when I try to talk to people, because my politics is not defined by a specific ideology, but when it comes to healthcare, there is only one option, and that is a universal single payer system, period. Like there is no other option. And
right. No, I get that. I understand, and I am supportive of that in the short term, but long term, due to several factors, I'll admit, I don't know how many anarchists you have that listen to your show, but I am one of them. It's just because I'm just disillusioned with the system. I mean, I'm only 29, but I've been in both parties. I hate both parties. I hate the duopoly, and I hate, because neither of them are even close to representing my values as a person, and politically, especially, and also I see it also as because I'm also a spiritual person, hence the neurodivergent Sufi. Sufi is like mystical Islam. In fact, you guys interviewed Butch Ware. He's a Sufi. I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah.
So, so that is a big part of who I am. And I know you guys aren't so hot on that, but and I respect that. Believe me. I understand. I get it. But it is very important to who I am as a person.
Let me ask you a question. As somebody, as an anarchist, what is the anarchist perspective regarding healthcare for everyone in a civilization, right? Like in a society, what would that look like?
I'm glad you asked. I know that there's like mutual aid. I know that could be a source of healthcare. Honestly, I haven't fully fleshed out exactly how we would go about public services, but of course, I'm not against public services. I mean, I'm an ex-ANCAP, so I know how they think, and they just I got totally disillusioned with that ideology after a while, because it's like these people don't even like they will deny that, like they use the Ayn Randian line of there's no such thing as society. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, of course there's such a thing as society. We're not individuals on private islands, where nothing we do affects anybody else. That's just not how society works. And these people like to pretend that they're the smartest people in the room, but they have no understanding of the basic anthropological and sociological history of what it means to be a human being and be in society. So I mean, my ideal society, if you guys want to know, that is basically like Native American societies, where you had relatively decentralized tribes, but they still took care of each other. There were still things like, I'm not against things like buying and selling. I'm not like totally ANCOM or like anarcho-primitivists or anything like that. I do believe in market socialism and in mutualism, but I forgot, I lost my train of thought, but that's my basic idea of to answer your question, Jen, of how I think society should be run. Yeah, that's basically it. And it's funny because I've been and this has nothing, I don't know who controls this or whatever, so I'm not blaming you guys, but I've been trying to, like, I've sent you guys emails, I've sent messages, I've sent, really, because I wanted to get in touch with you guys and talk about this stuff, because I really respect what you guys do, despite our differences. I also agree with you guys on a lot. So and so I've been wanting to introduce myself and talk to you guys, because I really appreciate what you do.
We appreciate you calling in. This is, and we do apologize. We get tons of messages, obviously, and we've also switched up our email system. So with that said, nothing personal, but we really do appreciate you calling in.
No, I understand.
This is also an example. Like I said, there is much like Israel has done to the Palestinian people, and we have done in our country, the dehumanization of people who need help. And that is
I feel that as a disabled person, I feel that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing is that we live in a way where it's a whole bunch of people trying to fit round pegs into square holes. So we do
that's
that
what
with
people try to do to me all the time. Yeah.
Right. So we do it in our
including honestly my own family, my own parents sometimes do that. So
right. So you're expected to work in the same way that a totally typical person works. And that's just like, it's like the world's created for a certain typical person. And if you're not that typical person, you're really screwed. And I am the parent of someone who's had developmental issues. And so I saw it from a parent's perspective in dealing with the education system. And it's really ridiculously challenging. And so I appreciate that. As far as the healthcare and losing your
even
healthcare,
if you have IEPs, the teachers can just ignore the IEPs. I went through that. The teachers can just ignore it. Yeah.
We have that. It's a constant battle. It's a constant
and
battle.
You're in Florida. I'm in New York, so I don't know how I bet as bad as it is in New York, I'm sure it's
it'd be even worse if you were.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal. And it's the same thing with working, right? Like you're expected to, and the one thing that this is why I believe, this is why
I still live with my parents, by the way. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but I just have so much I wanted to say for a long time.
This is a key point as to why we're in the mess that we're in and why people are so stuck where they're stuck.
Yes.
Is that we don't reward people for being who they are as much as we want to fit people into like these little boxes. And then when people can't do that, they're basically cast out. And it's that's not the world I want to live in. But it's unfortunately is where we are. And I do think that it's fair to be concerned about.
I do have PTSD responding to this comment here. I actually I have PTSD too. So from the stroke, actually, from, because TBIs you're at a higher risk for PTSD.
Oh yeah, no, without question. You definitely, there is definitely a mental incapacitation that will come from time to time where you think you're going to have another stroke. I totally understand.
Yes.
So it's like I said, it goes without saying that. First of all, we applaud you, Jordan, for being in the fight, because it is very difficult to live every day with this. I can speak from personal experience. I had crippling sciatica that basically prevented me from sitting. Like I couldn't do it. It was an ungodly amount of pain. I could tell you that just from that one experience, I always say, you can all have an opinion about this until you actually live it. And then when you live it, you'll change your freaking tune immediately. That's always, and it's always been that old joke about the old hat conservative where, oh, I don't like gay people. But then they find out that their child is gay. And now all of a sudden their attitude changes. And that,
the Dick Cheney effect.
Exactly. It's the euphemism of life. And so keep fighting the good fight. We really appreciate you calling in this evening, and we really appreciate you also being a supporter of our channel. We do what we do so that we can get to a point in this world where people like you can live with the dignity that you deserve.
Yeah, and that's the key thing is I think that the idea that everybody is expected to work a certain way, a certain job, a certain amount of hours, a certain days, and it does not suit humans to all be in that same box. And it's our obligation as a society to provide dignity and a safety net, even for the people that don't fit into the box. And that's really what it is. And the problem is, for so many people are so desperate and miserable because everybody is struggling to get by basically on every level. So with punching down, it's easy to look down at someone and be like, well, I was able to do it in the box. Why can't you do it in the box? I can do it, even though they suffered too. But it really is where we need to get to the point where everybody is not bitter and angry. Then there's no need to be punching down. And so that's like the ultimate goal is if people's needs are being met, then they're not needing to punch down and be like, well, I had to do it. You have to, if they're happy, content people don't do that.
That's interesting because I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I mean, I could talk to you guys for hours, to be honest with you. But anyway, just on that point, I have a different approach where I understand that mentality of, I had to go through something, so everybody else has to. But my mentality is honestly the opposite, where I think I know how I felt when I went through my shit, and I still go through shit every day. Like every day, honestly, it is kind of like a full-time job, just being me. Even getting out of bed is just, and people don't understand that. But anyway, my mentality is, okay, I know how I feel. I don't want anybody else feeling like that. That's sort of the way I look at it.
Well, that's because you're a decent person and not a psychopath. But unfortunately, a lot of people, when they're in need or desperate or in trauma, and let's not forget that the majority of people that we're talking about that are needy in whatever way come from need and come from trauma. And so when you have people with that mindset that, by the way, never got mental health treatment in most cases. So trauma perpetuates trauma. And so that it's a cycle. It's hurt people. And that's ultimately the thing that we're trying to break. And, I do think it's getting better in terms of awareness of people having trauma and awareness of differences. And it not isn't necessarily getting better politically or electorally, but I think it's getting better in terms of human to human awareness that not everybody fits in a box.
I agree. Like I said, I've, and I guess maybe I'll end on this note, but I've totally lost faith in electoral politics. I'm lucky I figured that out at like 27, 28 years old instead of, some people never realize that, but I'm just totally done with it. I mean, I that's why I'm not excited by people like Zohran Mamdani. I mean, what he did was amazing. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
I give him credit for that, but beyond that, I'm just not. Like there's a lot of people, especially the Vote Blue No Matter Who crowd, and the sort of like Kyle Kalinske fake left, really liberal kind of crowd, where it's like you're supposed to be excited about Zohran Mamdani and about AOC and all those people, and it's like I'm just not. I just don't trust them. I honestly don't. And
Yeah.
it's hard for me. I mean, to be fair, I don't really even trust myself most of the time either. But so it's not just them. I have like trust issues in general, but honestly, I just don't trust them. I mean, if, for instance, I know you guys have talked about Mamdani, and that's great. I think it's great that you're giving him coverage because I think he deserves it. But on the other hand, I'm just not
Right.
I mean, and lucky me, I don't even live in New York City anyway. I'm in upstate New York and rural, upstate New York on the border of Pennsylvania or Pennsylvania, really.
Okay.
So
well, we've covered it regarding like with caution, right?
Yes,
like covering it in terms
Yeah.
of right. Like we're not covering it like we're cheerleaders for him.
Of
I think
course,
that
of
the
course.
premise is good.
I'm just saying that some people are. I didn't mean
Yeah.
you guys,
I
but some
think that
people are.
the biggest problem with Mamdani is that he's already getting the AOC treatment and that people don't think he can be
Yes.
criticized. And the second you go into that realm of thinking is when it's all over, because then he'll never be pushed properly. And now, which we will cover later this evening and on Monday, he's already, not that I think he'll deliberately go in that direction because he's just trying to win, but he's already showing that he's going to be pushed in a direction we don't want to be pushed in. So with that
agree.
said,
and thank you for allowing me to clarify that. Yeah, I was talking about other people pumping him up, not you.
Yeah,
guys.
no, for sure. And I think that and the other thing goes back to what you were just saying before, which is the most important factor. Let's say hypothetically that he turns out to be awesome and he's great and he does do good things for New York City. Well, that's great, and we'll all be very happy for it. But the point is, it's a drop in the bucket. And when we're talking about electoral politics on anything bigger than a city scale, once you get in any way to the federal level, we know that it's useless. It's pointless. Like that, it won't do anything. Like you can get the most progressive person in the world and they get to Congress, even if it's Shama Sawan. And yes, I'd love to see her use that platform to organize labor and do all sorts of things. We had her on, we talked about it. I'd love to see that. But it seems so much more like just it's hard to get excited about something that very well might not make any difference. But I think for Mamdani, if he does get in there and does do some decent things, that could set a standard, and it can set, like, especially people being aware. That's the only thing I'm somewhat optimistic about, is that could it set a standard for a mayor's position for a city, for a municipality, to be able to put in things like, municipal markets or what, different things like. So I want to see those things put into place and other people be able to sort of feel safe putting it forward in their own communities. Like that snowball effect, I think, is potentially good to help smaller, sustainable communities, which is ultimately my goal, which has nothing to really do with the electoral politics.
Jordan.
Yeah. One thing about Mamdani that like the coverage surrounding him that annoys me, of course, is they throw around the term socialist, and it's like, you guys don't even like the media and stuff like that. Like, you guys have no idea what socialism even is. I mean, he's like the most moderate milquetoast guy I've I just it's like, you should see, like, if I have no interest in this anymore, even though I was a political science student I got my bachelor's in political science. Regret that today, but at the time it seemed like a good idea. But anyway, the point is, like, you should see, if I was running, you should see my platform, like Fox News and people, they wouldn't know what to do with my platform that I would have in mind.
Yeah.
Well, what I will say, Jordan, and we do have to get on to the next caller, but we do want to thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But what I do want to say, which I think is important, is that be vigilant, but also be willing to give people the opportunity to prove themselves. They prove themselves right, wonderful. If they prove themselves wrong, then that's it. And I could,
Yes.
and I'm Irish, so I come from a world where my attitude is I will trust you until I can't trust you, and when I can't trust you, that trust is broken forever.
Yep.
So that's
I'm half Irish myself, Peter. So yeah.
So you understand.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Keep fighting the good fight, and we look
Thanks,
forward to
Jordan.
All right. Thank you.
our pleasure. Colin, who do we have next, my friend?
I'm working on being Irish.
All right. Next up, we have Kat.
Is that Kat Negrita?
Kat Negrita?
If you can unmute.
Yeah, it's me.
Hi.
Hi there. I got to turn this down. So I got two things going on. It's me. Hi.
She's actually
Let me.
listening to the podcast and calling in.
You can't do it both ways.
I know. I had to turn off the podcast and just be on the iPhone so I can
There you
actually
go.
pay attention. Hey, you guys.
Hi, it's
I'm
nice to meet you.
I'm nervous.
Don't be
Nice to meet
nervous.
you
Nobody
too.
can see you, so there's no reason to be nervous. Nobody can see you.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right. Well, then, no, I had thought about calling in before, but I'm in a kind of a foul mood and I don't really have anything political to say. Well, you know that about me a little bit, right? You guys, I don't talk about politics. But anyway, I thought I'd call in, especially hinging on what the gentleman just spoke about, Jordan, just recently. Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you're calling. What are the key things then? If you're not wanting to talk politics, what are the key things?
Well, I guess, part of what I wanted to talk about is that let's see. All the details of what's going on politically is something that's been, it's a repeat performance of what's been going on, 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And of course, I'm dating myself. I've been in this machine a long, long time. And
you don't want to be stuck on that extra wheel.
Well, what I recognize is that I've been leaking pieces of my story to you and whoever else has been in my live streams over the last 4 or 5 years. So there's little pieces of historical references that I say all the time. But I won awards in student government with my associates in 1984. I worked for a Department of Defense contract in 1989. I've worked before I became permanently disabled, I was a real powerhouse. And so, I was a big D Democrat. My parents were radical, liberal, leftist Californians in the 60s. So, when I say that I was on my dad's shoulders when they helped rebuild Watts, that's really true. And this black man really did come to my home and put together my swing sets. And my sister dated black men and married two at different times. But
I was going to say that's kind of an interesting setup.
Yeah, I have to watch how I'm anxious, so sometimes my story doesn't come out all straight. And then, I became permanently disabled at a very young age. I was 39, I think it is, and I'm 62.
Wow.
And so it isn't, and I've had over 350 mild to moderate head injuries. Not like I'm proud of that accumulation, but I was an incest survivor. There's like all these little through lines that go through. I've been in the 12-step world at 21 years old. I got into recovery. So I had this identity attached to where I was going and what I was supposed to be accomplishing in my world. And then I became disabled and devolved and became quite a shell of my former self. And not that this is the Cat show. This is not my show.
Well, Kat,
But
let me ask
you-
you a question, because obviously you've been dealing with this for almost 25 years. And over the course of that time, obviously we've had quite the evolution, especially when it comes to social media. And do you find that these outlets have provided you with some degree of sustenance, considering all that you've been through, versus a time where maybe these outlets that didn't exist wouldn't have allowed you to do that, and it might have had an even more adverse effect by not having these outlets to communicate?
That's very insightful of you, Peter. Frankly, what this community has provided for me is a lifeline. Because I was isolated, though had key people in my life, my family and small groups of friends. I after 2021, when I was injured by Moderna #2 and became quite clearly diseased to a much more great extent, the only source of any community I really had outside of people coming to my home to take care of me, and that sounds like I was a shriveled old prune of a human. No, I'm still quite sexy and vital. It's a quirk. But no, this community provided me with a chance to, blurt out and interact and communicate in live stream in a way that allowed me to have community. I didn't have any of that.
This community,
and I stepped away from people.
Our live stream,
your community,
wow,
your community,
that's so
Lee
nice.
Camp's community.
Yeah,
it's going to make me cry, but it's a piece of my intro in this first memoir that I'm completing, which is that truly, I mean, I'm going to cry.
It's okay.
We love you,
Yeah,
Kat.
truly.
You make a big, and I say this to everybody who watches our channel, that we notice the people in the chat. We notice the people that have not only been with us, but have been interactive. And we notice the commentary, especially from ones who will say that we have made a positive difference in their life. And to me, that is an impetus to do this, because for Jen and I, as you know, this is not our career. We do this because we genuinely care, and we're trying to make a difference as best we can. And it's not an easy thing to do. We try to talk about relevant topics, but we also try to make sure that stories like yours, like Jordan's, are heard, because they need to be heard. Because we live in a world, especially as the spiraling disillusionment of the capitalist system is happening, people are starting to recognize that part of the reason that the system can't sustain itself, much like the genocidal state of Israel can't sustain itself, is because it's all about dehumanization. We want to pretend like everyday people don't go through serious everyday life struggles and that everybody's fine. Well, no, everybody's not fine. In fact, most people are probably not, even ones that are doing okay. And that is the impetus for why we're doing what we're doing. And so if we've provided an outlet for you that has provided you with, as I alluded to, sustenance from what you're dealing with, then we're more than happy to serve in that capacity.
Yeah. I like it. Look, I like the online, the places I go on my chats, like on Everybody Knows on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights, I'm usually in the Punch Up Pod chat, because it is very community. And this is a very lonely and isolating time. And as someone who grew up in the 70s when there was no online, right? Like everything we did was in person, and there was so much more community and so much more connection. And a lot of that is gone now. And especially for people that for whatever reason can't get out, whether it's like disability or whatever, it's a very lonely and isolating time to be aware of what's going on in the world. That's, it is. And so I think it's important to have these spaces.
100%.
I would agree. If there were one thing that I would say, because again, I participated in large communities and organizations, the Renaissance Fair. I was part of this founding of it, and it's still very much a piece. I went back to Facebook about a month ago, as in that I was being interviewed for a podcast interview, and I wanted to dip back in because I really left that community. it's frustrating. I have limitation in my hands and my thumbs, and I'm a writer and a cook and an artist. But for me to interface with plus I'm psychic, right? As you guys know, I read your minds and I reverb it back to you. You've been participants in that a little bit. So I'm taking in all this information and then I'm taking it in auditorily. I'm taking it in visually because I'm watching you on a screen. I've got a screen in my hand, and both my hands, I have nerve damage in my neck. So my thumbs are not working as fast as my brain is working. And then I'm taking in all these cues from what observing you and your stories and your storyline over weeks at a time. And to have a real, my mind is not where I'm, it's not that I'm not adept, but it's just too much for me to process it and then to type it out with my thumbs in live stream.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. So out of that comes, some cryptic off the wall comment, like saying telling you there's a number of 250,000 dead. I said that in live stream in November of 2023. That's a pretty off the wall thing to say, but it's come to pass. And so,
yeah. No, I appreciate it. And I appreciate, and this gives me, it makes sense for us to do a call in then for people that have a hard time really communicating very clearly in the chat, which I am very not my fingers are not very nimble. So I often have weird cutoff chats when I put things in chats that I'm in that I'm like, oh, that just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. And of course, these conversations, as we said, are definitely an outlet for supporters like yourself. Again, we know you've been with us for a long time. We do want to get one more caller in before the segment ends this evening. But Kat, we, again, cannot thank you enough for supporting our channel. And if in any way, shape, or form we have provided you with that sustenance that is needed, especially in difficult times like this, we're happy to provide it. And we always appreciate seeing you on the channel. And we hope we'll see you again and hope you'll call in again in the near future.
Bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Be well.
Thanks, Kat.
I love you guys.
You've got time for one more caller. Who do we have?
That was actually the last one we have in
Very
here.
good.
All right. That'll be it for this evening. We only had less than 5 minutes left. So there you go. And thank you guys so much for calling in this evening and for sharing your stories. I think that is very, very important. And look, as we've said, we do this because we genuinely care. And if we've provided a community, which it sounds like we have, because the chat's very lively, got all walks of political life here this evening. We want to thank you guys. It really makes a difference for us. This is why we do what we do. That's the reason why I was able to drag Jen on for a Saturday night shindiggy.
Because otherwise I'm so busy. My very busy happening social life on a Saturday night.
Well, we do.
I'm sure there's dog piss to clean somewhere.
There probably is.
I'm sure. Let me tell you. I am sure there is.
Well, assuming that Clint joins us in, Okay, so it is possible that Clint is not going to join us this evening because he may have plans. So we'll see if he shows up. But we will be covering some important topics here, which I think, of course, this is the one that I know Jen definitely wanted to talk about while she was here. So Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to put together an amendment for the latest spending bill that was going to address the fact that we were supposedly going to cut $500 million from additional weapons to be sent over to Israel. And this is what she had to say about this amendment that she was putting in there to help us reduce our spending to Israel.
As the House considers the defense appropriation bill today that costs the American people $831 billion, it's important to talk about that this is the funding for our great men and women serving in our military and our nation's defense. The Department of Defense's mission statement is to deter war and ensure our nation's security, and that is worthy of the American people's hard-earned tax dollars. However, the American people are $37 trillion in debt. So this is money that is being spent that they already don't have.
Even if we agree with the premise of what she's trying to do here, which is reduce the stranglehold of the Israel lobby on our political and economic discourse, they are still running with the 37 trillion in debt myth because they don't want to tell the truth about how money is created and spent into existence versus a deficit. Now, if you want to talk about deficit spending, that's a different story. But if you're going to talk about debt and make it seem like we can't possibly get out of it, I think talking like this is that's where you lose people that you could otherwise be gaining.
I don't know about that one way or the other. I'm still sitting here just completely, I'm not surprised anymore, but it's just life is disappointing when the person that is leading the one thing that you agree with is this person. And the fact that it's her, Massey, and a few Democrats. Is that what it was? It was like Summer Lee, Rashida Tlaib,
and Al Green.
Great. And, all of that is it's just pathetic. It's pathetic. And it really doesn't cease to amaze me, I guess, that I'm sitting here and this is the person who's making the most sense out of everybody. We've come a long way.
Yeah, but we've said for the longest time that it's always going to be the populist right that's going to get shit done because the populist left will fight, but they will only fight so hard.
Well, wait a minute. That's because there is no populist left. There is no populist left in that governing body.
There was when Bernie ran the first time in 2016. There was a real movement that was happening.
That wasn't in that governing party. In this governing body right here, there is not an actual populist left person. There just isn't. They don't exist in this party. So,
let's hear what else she has to say.
My amendment would strike $500 million in funding for nuclear-armed Israel's missile defense system. And it's important to phrase it that way. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation, which is very capable of defending themselves, and they have been proving that so as we've watched on the world stage. The U.S. already provides Israel with $3.8 billion annually in foreign aid. $3.8 billion, that's a lot of money. Additionally, the April 2024 security supplemental included $8.7 billion for Israel. That is nuclear-armed Israel. And during the recent 12-day war, the U.S. used 15 to 20% of our terminal high-altitude area defense missiles stockpiles defending nuclear-armed Israel, which cost us over $800 million. The $500 million provided in this bill will fund Israel's, that is nuclear-armed Israel's, missile defense system, the Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow system. Yet Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. That's a pretty big deterrent for any of their enemies. Any nation that has a nuclear bomb has the greatest threat against their enemies. U.S. aid typically accounts for 15 to 20% of Israel's defense budget, even though Israel, nuclear-armed Israel, has universal health care for their citizens and subsidized college for their citizens.
Well, MTG, are you going to start supporting single-payer health care?
No, she won't. But she just doesn't want. Us to be funding it for Israel, which I completely agree with that premise. And I want to address Underhill in the chat because I do not know whether or not she is pro-nuke or not pro-nuke. She very well might want Israel to nuke Iran.
I've never heard her say anything like that.
No, but I think why she's doing that, and I think this is a key point, and I think the reason she keeps saying nuclear-armed Israel is because that is often overlooked by people. Not just that Israel has nukes, but they're not supposed to. So they have nukes against all sorts of international law and regulation. And that is something that she is pointing out that I do appreciate because people need to know that Israel has nuclear weapons because they're not supposed to.
No,
they're not supposed to. It's in violation of international regulations on nukes. So they did it secretly. They're not supposed to have it. And yet we know they do. So her doing that is kind of pleasing to me. Also, also the fact that she is implying that, well, by her doing that, whether she means to or not, it's saying, well, why is it okay for them to call out Iran for having a nuclear program when they have nuclear weapons? So her motives for doing it, I don't know, but I don't mind it. But I don't say that automatically makes her saying she wants Israel to nuke Iran. What she's saying is Israel has enough of their own shit. They don't need our support anymore.
And we will bring our esteemed guest in 1 minute.
Okay.
But what I will say is that I think with Marjorie, I think if you're looking at it from an underhanded standpoint, listen, Trump is only going to be there for so much longer. And there are going to be people who are going to be seeking their opportunity to become the next leaders, if you will, much like AOC and Jasmine Crockett are trying to do with the Democrats right now. Marjorie is seeing her opportunity as one of the next de facto leaders of the MAGA movement. That is her. If you're looking for a roundabout, underhanded component to what she's trying to do here, I do think that there is some truth to that. But I also think some people are just frankly sick of Israel, and they're just sick of all the people.
That's what I think it is mostly with her. And a lot of the things with the GOP people that they don't want to be dealing with this is because they want to focus all their anger and attention on China. And that is something that they are seeking to do. And I've seen that actually on both sides. That's like they're all sort of like, chomping at the bit to get to China.
Indeed. We'll finish it up.
They're able to provide that. However, here in America, we're $37 trillion in debt. My amendment to strike $500 million in foreign aid will ensure an America First Department of Defense. And that is exactly what we need, and we haven't had for a very long time. Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
Yeah, Underhill, we're not fans of Marjorie Taylor Greene. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the original people in the CUNT club that I've had here during story time. And CUNT, if anybody is interested, is Congresswomen in Urgent Need of Teaching. And the CUNT club has had a lot of prestigious members, but she is one of them. So do not think that we somehow are like cheerleading for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay.
Before we bring in Clint, I just want to read this post that we dropped last night that I think pretty much sums up this entire situation here, especially when Jen talks about the fact that there really is no populist left. There's the woke left, but there really isn't a populist.
Exactly.
left.
Exactly.
And so Marjorie Taylor Greene's time in Congress can best be described like this: controversial and obnoxious, yet fearless. She is the one GOP rep besides Thomas Massie who has truly stood up to the Israel lobby's stranglehold over our political discourse. Today, she submitted an amendment. Colin, if you will, please. Today, she submitted an amendment to the latest spending bill that would have cut $500 million in additional military aid to Israel. She said the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people was one of the primary drivers. Massie and progressive Dems, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Summer Lee, and Al Green were the only other reps who voted yes. This is why we hold Zohran Mamdani's feet to the fire. We do not want him to make unforced errors like AOC does for career opportunism. AOC didn't vote no on the amendment because she supports Israel or dislikes MTG. She voted no because she's a political opportunist. In her calculation, the political waters are not safe yet to take a firm stand against Israel. In our calculation, this is the most cowardly move in a string of cowardly moves from a person who seeks to take real power in the Democratic Party. Remember this moment when she seeks your support for Senate or president. And that is the bottom line. Without further ado, we would like to welcome he's not even a frenemy. He's a friend. He is
a friend. We don't have frenemies. Why would we have a frenemy?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. No,
he is no. All things can be true. You could have multiple enemies, but anyway, continue.
That's true. But a true political right populist who we think very highly of, and we are hoping against all hope, is planning a very big move, which we will discuss with in a moment. Clint Russell, always a pleasure. Welcome for the first time to Revolutionary Change.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. Is my audio levels okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great. I'm actually surprised to hear you guys say that you don't like MTG. Maybe it's just me. But yeah, I mean, she's certainly not perfect, but I think that you have so few political representatives, particularly on the right, that are willing to buck AIPAC, buck any other Israeli funding. It's really just her and Massey on the right. And that was proven out today with that vote. I mean, it wasn't even to end financial aid or military aid to Israel. It was just, can we reduce this by $500 million? And you had 2 GOP members vote yes. 2. So as far as I'm concerned, Massey and Gates are good. What's up?
466, right? Is that how much it was? It was like
422 to 6.
422 to 6. That's what I'm thinking.
Yep. So I'm a big fan of hers for that reason. I just think that she's also one of the only right wingers that doesn't get money from AIPAC. So
I respect it. We've commended that, and I do. And ironically, I'm looking to move into her district. Like that's where I'm trying to move, is what's in her district. But obviously, policy-wise, there's a lot of things. Jewish space lasers, like there's definitely a history there with her that has been a little bit theatrical, and a little bit also kind of not so nice. And just, I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan. But yet, I will call out good things.
Yeah, my issues with Marjorie I don't think she's a sinister person. I don't think she's evil. Like that.
I don't think that.
I think that she enjoys the limelight. I think she plays it for what it's worth, and she's very good at it. Can't take that away from her. But there are, like Bryant Mast, for example, Randy Fine, who we will get to, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They are evil, sinister people. Yeah. And they are in control of the levers of power in our country.
Well, this is why I'm saying I would encourage you guys to be a little kind to her, just because of that, because it's like there's so few decent human beings. And I agree with you. Like as I said earlier, I don't agree with everything MTG says. She says a lot of wild shit, but we have like 5 people that I think aren't predators. I think she's probably one of them. So I'm like, thumbs up MTG. I just wanted to give my support to her because it really takes a lot. You see the Kentucky PAC that was founded by Trump to go after Massey in the primary specifically. MTG is right in the crosshairs for that exact same treatment. So I respect anybody who's willing to go down that path. It demonstrates a lot more courage than someone like AOC is willing to put forward.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah, which is why we've been putting it out there. And by the way, we have no love for AOC.
Yeah, I know.
You've seen us. Like we don't. I don't support any of those tools. I really don't. I mean,
rightfully so.
People that were on the same page with this. Obviously the usual suspects. Obviously Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and so that's great. But anyone else who wasn't on this, you're the problem. That's everybody who was not with this is the problem. And that's a whole shit ton of people.
Let me just point this out too. It was over 98% of Congress voted to continue funding at the current levels. So I went back and I was like, I got to see how close that is to alignment with the American people. And there was a poll done right before the elections in November, and it was 49 to 48. 49% of people said that they would be less likely to support a candidate if they wanted to provide aid to Israel, and 48 said that they would be more likely. So basically, it's 50-50. So half of this country does not want to continue to provide aid to Israel, at least not at this level. And you have 98% of Congress voting in favor of maintaining it. So I just think it tells you everything you need to know. Like, they are not representative of the American people. If they were, you would have had hundreds of votes that were coming down to get rid of that funding. It's ridiculous.
You know what, though? If they were representative of the American people, we would also have things like single payer health care, a living wage, and a whole bunch of other things. And we would definitely not be involved in all the wars that we're in.
What's the polling on single payer health care? You got over 50%, really?
Most people support it, yes, and even Republicans.
Yeah, single payer health care is at about 75-80%. It's overwhelmingly supported. In
both
fact,
parties. It's obviously higher in Democrats, but there is a majority of GOP registered voters support the idea of a single payer healthcare when it's presented to them non-biasedly, right? Like,
well, then that just goes to show that the right wingers are economically illiterate too.
Okay, look, this is where we're not gonna. This is where we won't play nice. But,
hey, I got a frenemy opening, so this is. Yeah, I got to demonstrate where we part ways, right?
But that's the thing. Like, I support social safety net, but the point is that all of those people that have now voted to send more money to a genocide are complicit in that genocide. And if people in this country, if it helps anger them that they'd rather, they think it's a pie and that money should go here, if that helps them get on board with cutting off Israel, then we can all work together to that. Like, I don't have to agree as to why.
Yeah, fully in agreement there. I had Jimmy Dore on my show like a year ago, and he was basically negotiating with me, and he's like, if we could end the wars, but you had to have single payer healthcare, would you get on board? And I said yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you said the last time you were on our channel? Do you remember what you said?
I don't remember. Sorry.
Something similar.
You said that you would support if we agreed that we would be on board
with ending the Fed.
With ending the Fed.
Yeah. See,
100% be on board with single payer.
This is negotiating.
Us for the good time, man.
Yeah, that's negotiation. You see what I'm saying? But I
well,
really
see, Jimmy's negotiating with me. I'm negotiating with you guys. Well, this is how you get the populace to work together.
Yes,
yeah, but
and
this
that's
is
the
the way
thing.
it's always been done.
That's how it should be done. And if we, that's what I'm saying. If we were honestly living where our electoral politics and our policy represented the will of the majority of people, we would have a lot of things that you don't like, right? But you would have a lot of things that you do like that would exist, right?
Yeah,
so
like
that
ending the wars.
Would be a mixed bag, and you would we would be able to say, at least it represents what the majority of people want in this civilization. That's true. I mean, we are walking a perilous line, though, just ceding rights to the majority, because there was a time not long ago, particularly in 2020, when the majority was fully on board with locking down and masking up and social distancing into oblivion. So I'm just saying, I'm not always going to side with the majority. I will side with them when they land me in a direction that I want to go. So I'm talking about, and this is why it's important to say it's called a constitutional democracy or a constitutional republic, right? Like, certain rights, our basic rights, are never something that are up for a vote. That requires an amendment to the Constitution. What we're talking about is things like economic policies, tax policies, things that affect us as cohabitating in this country together. Yeah. That is the only stuff that I am with. That should be majority rule stuff. The stuff that can't be has to do with people's rights, has to do with people's civil liberties. Those are things that are not, to me, as somebody that is very much a civil libertarian person, those are things that I agree. You cannot have it be majority rule, because there was a point when the majority of people said slavery was fine. So that doesn't. Bingo. Correct. I agree. I agree. But that's why it has to work in tandem with a constitutional situation. No disagreement. For the things that we agree should be within our purview of what we vote on, right? Like things that we all agree. I believe majority rule. Well, I mean, because I'm a libertarian, I still feel that, taxation is theft. Therefore, if I'm being robbed to fund something that I morally, fundamentally don't agree with, I'm going to fight you, right, like that's in my nature. But I would, as I told Jimmy, like I would 100% trade the empire and the military industrial complex and AIPAC control of our Congress for single payer healthcare. Like, our healthcare system is already so screwed up that at this point I'm like, whatever. Like, I don't even care at this point. Right. You're willing to negotiate though, but you're willing to negotiate.
But why, Clint, are you willing to negotiate and people like Randy Fine are not? Because it's still the universal truth about why our system's broken. We are run by people that are bought and paid for by corporate special interests. If you are not bought and paid for by corporate special interests, you can have an honest dialogue about critical issues that we may not agree 100% on. That's the difference, which is why I can talk to you, unlike somebody like Wasserman Schultz, who is as bought and paid for as anybody in politics and happens to have the D in front of her name. So the natural tendency of the vote blue no matter who is, well, she may not be that good, but she's a Democrat, so that makes it okay. And I think we are evolving as people to say, no, we're rejecting this shit. We're not doing this anymore. That way of political thinking is dead. Maybe the boomers will drag it on for a few more years, but it's not going to last long. And the one thing you could take away from Mamdani winning in New York in the primary is that was all a youth vote, changing of the guard in New York, because he won that 18 to 49 voting demographic in a way that had never been done before. So it was a complete repudiation of the way that people typically vote in New York. Even if you don't agree with him politically, it was certainly a sign of the way things will change. And of course, to his credit, he did not back off on saying that, no, we're not going to be a city that cows to Israel. Kudos to him.
No, I agree. I mean, it was. I don't know how much courage it takes to do that in New York City.
A lot.
But well, maybe. But then again, every other politician that he was running against didn't do that. They all were like, first trip I'd take would be to Israel. So it's very confusing, to be honest, because particularly on the left, like the actual left, support for Israel right now in particular is just so hated, and yet you only get this one guy who's willing to actually say it. So I found it fascinating. I haven't studied the guy close enough to know if he's the real deal. I'll take your word for it. Obviously, I would kind of prefer that he not be the real deal, because I think he's going to nationalize grocery stores and do all sorts of stuff that I would oppose.
Not going to nationalize grocery stores.
Yes, he is. If it's state funded and you use it to set prices that are beneath the market price, you're going to force out private business, and therefore you're going to have nationalized grocery stores. That's the whole idea. Am I wrong?
No, that's not the idea. The idea is for people to be able to have food that right now can't afford food.
I think
that's the idea. But I see what your concern is. But that to me is one of those things. What you're talking about are things that I would think could be worked out in terms of figuring out how to do both things and serve different people. Like, I believe in supporting small businesses. I believe in small mom and pop supermarkets. I believe in all sorts of things like that. And so would someone like Zohran. I am not singing his praises because I don't know him, just from what he's saying. This is someone who would support small business over like a Walmart little market corner store in the neighborhood.
Well, no disagreement with that. I mean, right now it's inverted. Right now, the government actually is curated to big business to the detriment of small business, which is certainly not in alignment with a free market or with libertarian values. So I agree. I agree with a lot of his findings. It's fascinating because like I watched some of his ads, and he's talking about the increase in the cost of, I don't know, falafel or whatever, some street food. And he's like, it's up, 50% over the past 10 years. And he's talking to these vendors, and all of the vendors say, oh, it's the licensing. It's the state. It's the city-based licensing. And from a libertarian perspective, like that's such an easy answer. Like get rid of it.
And he probably would. And he probably is someone, after being out there and talking to so many people, that would try to come up with some sort of plan and negotiation to please different people. But he definitely wants to help small business.
We'll see.
Small business. And if what he does screws some of the bigger corporate subsidy takers that are on the dole, those big corporations that basically get to be able to do whatever they want and set pricing. If he does anything that affects them in a negative way, that's good.
Yeah. And I don't know about anything in a negative way, but within reason. Yes.
Him opening up funded markets that help people. If it is to the detriment of some people, that doesn't bother me. I don't want something that's to the detriment of mom and pops. And I don't think he would do something that would be to the detriment of small business. So that's just what I'm saying. I'm saying that I do know what he's trying to accomplish, but it isn't for some nefarious, I'm trying to socialize the world motive. It's just trying to get food to people.
And he's talked about getting rid of private property. Sorry, go ahead.
All right.
No, that's communism, and I don't agree with that. But what I will say,
but he did say that. So I'm just saying, I'm not making it up that this guy sounds like a communist.
I understand that.
But what I will say, and this is one thing in defense of Zohran and his plan to bring a government-owned grocery store to all of the one grocer to all of the 5 boroughs, so about 5 total. When you have somebody like, I am sure you're familiar with John, I'm going to say it as best I can, Catsimatidis. Catsimatidis. Okay. So this guy is a Greek billionaire who made his money through the Grasitas and D'Agostino supermarkets in Manhattan in the Red Apple. This guy is notorious for wage theft and price gouging, and he's been doing it for decades. And the fact that guys like him never get prosecuted, why? Because he is a massive political donor.
Yep.
Is something where a guy like Zohran will come in and a guy like him is going to lose his power. And that is one aspect of him being there, that if Adams is there, or dare I say, Andrew Cuomo gets there, it's going to be guys like him that keep him there. So
we'll see. I'm just saying TBD on all this. Like,
yes, I agree.
to get into power and to do the things that you're describing
Exactly.
is two totally different things. We'll see. If he's that guy, then he will be a hero on the left. I'm not convinced that'll happen. I think
I'm not either.
Well, first off, I'm not convinced that he'll win because I think that they'll pull out all the stops to try and stop him. If he's the real deal, they will do everything to try and stop him. If he's not the real deal, then they'll just sneak him in the back door and be like, "Oh, we can't believe that this guy got in there," and then he'll just cave on all of his promises. So we'll see.
When it's all said and done, as far as I'm concerned, he's already won, because just him exposing all of the bullshit related to the Israel lobby, that's a victory within itself. The fact that he took that on and beat the primary race as a result, he doesn't even need to do anything in governance. He's already set the precedent that everyone's looking at and thinking, yeah, we've got to get the Israel lobby the fuck out of our business. And that is a victory that cannot be quantified just based on a guy winning an electoral race. And speaking of which, because this is a perfect transition, because we all know you're thinking about this, and we certainly hope you'll do it. It's hard to pick a worse politician in the state of Florida than Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but Randy Fine is trying
close.
Really hard.
Well, Brian Mast is up there for me too, but I will say, yeah.
Mast is the IDF soldier, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Keep this in mind.
Florida's got some real winners.
Exactly.
Keep this in mind. The one solid Democrat in the state of Florida is Ann Eskamani, who's in Orlando, and she sat, I think, in front of Randy Fine when they were in the Tallahassee delegation. This guy never wore a yarmulke when he was in Tallahassee, but he's wearing it now. He's wearing it now everywhere he goes in D.C. And so credit to our friend Max Blumenthal at the Gray Zone. He was able to capture Mr. Fine a couple of days ago, and this
Representative Fine, Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone. You've been Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone. You've been a big supporter of killing civilians in Gaza. I was wondering, how long do you think you would last under the starvation conditions that Israel's imposed in Gaza? Like, have you ever put yourself in the shoes of the people of Gaza who are starving?
Well, I never really want to point out something so obvious, but I think he could last quite a while without having to go with food for
truly
for a couple of weeks. Jen?
He could go without food. I'm going to quickly answer Victoria's question. Why does Florida breed psychos? I've been trying to figure that out for a good portion of my life. I think it has something to do with the swamp, the weather, and the fact that it's just full of a lot of assholes.
I don't think that this guy's indicative of when like the rest of the country thinks of Florida man.
No,
that's not who this guy is.
No, but just in a sense that we do breed a lot of psychos here. There have been a lot of people that have come out of Florida with a psychopathic mentality. And we were just speaking of just a couple of them, Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Brian Mast. There's another,
right.
Although they're not from here. Well, Debbie's not.
There you go.
Got a lot of carpetbaggers in Florida too. Don't forget that. Okay, so we'll continue.
I don't believe in those who believe that they should keep hostages. If Gaza wants the war to end, they should let the hostages go. You take hostages, you get what's coming.
Do you think you're encouraging anti-Semitism by these kinds of comments, supporting the killing of children, supporting nuking Gaza?
Over here in this corner. Sir, he has another interview right now.
Why? I mean, why can't he do an adversarial interview?
He can do an
I thought you were the Hebrew hammer. You seem more like the Hebrew scammer.
I love Max. I friggin' love Max. That's the thing we can agree on. Put politics aside. Max is so good at getting under their skin and just pushing the buttons, and he does it so gleefully.
Yeah, I've done a couple shows with Max and did a live panel with him once or twice too. I mean, he's kind of like you guys for me. We disagree on economics fiercely, but when it comes to the empire, he's a major ally, and his work when it comes to not just the Middle East, but geopolitics broadly has been second to none as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think the way you said that is really good because that's how I think of it. It's allies in fighting empire.
Right.
And that's a really important distinction. And I think that is one of the biggest problems that exists on the left. Although it probably exists on the right. Like, I feel like people think their own people, it's like our place is crazy, but they're crazy over there too. But one of the biggest problems on the left is the inability to see the big picture. and you get so bogged down in details and things that are totally even put in front of you to get you bogged down in wedge issues and get you fighting amongst yourselves. And if more people on the left would put on their big girl panties and stop being such snowflakey people, then we could coalesce better with other people fighting the empire.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
That's what we're trying to do.
Well, see, this is there's a lot of different problems on the right. It's like, yes, we have that problem, but then we also have the problem of those that see the big picture, but then they ascribe it to like Jewish power is everything that you have to focus on, like the white nationalists and types like that. So it's just very hard. It's very hard to get people on the same page. You know, like I really want to separate America and American governance from foreign influence. That includes Israel, but it is not exclusively Israel. And, you know, if I talk like that, some people on the right will be like, oh, you're soft. You know, it's like, no, I'm actually like, I actually know what the problem is. And it's not just Israel. There's a lot of problems here.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I mean, it's tough to get people focused on the right issues, as you said, and to get people pushing in the same direction is extraordinarily challenging. So I don't know.
So what's your biggest issue with Randy Fine? And just because here's the thing. Begin? As somebody on the left, I have many, right? Like I don't think there's anything I would like about him, right? Whereas he is on your team. Technically, I mean, if you would be running, you wouldn't run against him in a primary. You would only run against him in a general.
No, in a primary.
Yeah, no, I would go for the primary, absolutely.
That's what I mean. So he's.
I just refuse to say that he's on my team.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
But what
I
I'm
can't
saying
do
is,
that.
I could like everybody in the world would know why I think he's disgusting. What I want to know is, why do you think he's so disgusting from being technically on his same political party team?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a lot. First off, he campaigned on America First, and everything he does in power is Israel first. Everything. Like, that is his primary goal when it comes to him being in office, being in power. He's obviously taken a tremendous amount of money from AIPAC, I would imagine from other Israeli lobbies as well. I haven't done that research yet. If I decide to run, I will know all of the answers to this, but at this point, I don't know. Also, you know, yes, there are still the neocon and the warmongers on the right. I am obviously not one of them. I'm very much the opposite of that. He represents that old guard in a way that I find to be reprehensible. And it's not just like supporting war. It's being bloodthirsty. It's being merciless and callous and disgusting about it. He just make the streets of Gaza overflow with blood and kill them all. And I mean, just the things that he has to say is it's disgusting. I don't know another way to put it. And I don't know how a person like that exists in American politics. He kind of reminds me of John McCain, but like a more crass, more disgusting version of John McCain, if that's possible.
And John McCain actually served. I'm pretty sure Randy Fine has not served anywhere.
Well, other than himself at a buffet.
I beat you to that. I beat you to
sorry.
that.
Well, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Well, he served the buffet line. I mean, you know, that much is that obvious.
We stepped on each other's joke.
That's what makes it worse. So he's basically a fucking coward.
But that's not. It's deeper than that. He's not just a coward. He's also more bloodthirsty than John McCain. I mean, just hear what I'm saying. Like John McCain still had kind of a respect for, you know, the grave consequences of war, at least a little bit. You know, he spent time being tortured and shit like that. So it's like you're gonna think about this in a little bit deeper level. Randy Fine has no moral compass when it comes to war, as best I can tell. It's just like kill everybody that's in opposition to Israel in his perception or otherwise. You know, so. I just think that having that mentality paired with the fact that you campaigned on America First, well, at best, America is second to Randy Fine. At best. I just think that has no place in the modern iteration of the right wing in MAGA, in America First, whatever you want to call it. If there is to be a viable populist right wing movement, you cannot have a guy like Randy Fine using those phrases. Like he has no business doing so. And I think he's fraudulent. And someone's got to get him out. So if it's got to be me, then so be it.
Well, I was going to say, I'd be happy to help you do that. If you want to do that, I'd be happy to help you do that. But, it's really interesting because I've been talking about this for a while, that I know that any populist working class labor class party movement type of situation isn't going to happen from the Democratic Party. It's going to happen from the Republican Party and the split that's coming. And whether that ends up being like a Thomas Massey group of people splitting off, or it's something like you coming in and getting rid of somebody like Randy Fine, right? It's like this, there needs to be this splinter that is the anti-war, at a minimum, America First splinter, that then at least I feel like are people that we can work with, just like we can negotiate with you. And that is ultimately where we might have a chance of having an actual labor populist party. Because
I appreciate that, but can I interject real quick? I just want to know why will it be on the right and not on the left? Because I don't understand.
The left is not capable. The left doesn't stand up. So, for example, on the left, there is no quote unquote Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz that's going to stand up to their own party. That doesn't exist on the left. So or even Thomas Massey, just case in point, like the fact that he's willing to do what is the right thing to do, not just as an elected person that serves his own people, but just in terms of what he says he's going to do. So he believes this, he's going to do that, right? Like that doesn't exist in the Democratic Party.
I agree with your assessment. I'm just curious. I don't understand why, because I know that there's lots of principled people on the left that I'm sure run.
At the end of the day, they're scared, whether it's a career thing. I think it depends on the person. But what I know is that how many of them have continued to be sending money to a genocide? Okay. It seems to be, and we're talking about of a party that's supposed to be the anti-war party, although they haven't been in forever and a day anyway. So these people actually go around, speak out against things, but then vote to fund it anyway. Whereas you have people like on the right, like Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, that are actually standing up to their own party for not doing what it said it was going to do. That doesn't exist on the left. And it's a variety of reasons. Is it that they're softer people? Is it that they're more career-seeking people? Is it that I don't know?
Or is the corruption deeper on the left? That's kind of what I was trying to find out.
If you're not taking, let's say you're not taking corporate money, right? Like, and you're not taking money where you're on the payroll of anybody else other than your people in your country, right? Then in theory, it isn't more of a corruption thing. Right? They have the same 2-year term, the same salary, the same ambition as far as I can make a career out of this. You could see it on the left or the right, and yet you see it so much more on the left. And I don't exactly know why.
That's why I was asking.
When I say left, I mean Democrats. Let me be clear. I don't think there is an actual
The only
left.
Democrat that actually does stand up and does the right thing is Rashida Tlaib. She's the only one. And the reason why she gets nowhere, frankly, is because this is an extremely bigoted anti-Muslim country. And her own people throw her under the bus. She stood up to Biden. She was the one person who told Biden to go fuck himself in Michigan. I ain't supporting you. And they all tried to come after her. And she was defiant. She said, I'm not supporting him. He supports a genocide, period. And
that's great.
And AOC and everybody. I mean, Ilhan Omar supports her. I have some issues with Ilhan, no question about it. She does things that I think placate in directions that I don't agree with. But Rashida has been spot on from day one. And not everybody likes her. She could be a real, nasty SOB. She's got a real fire in the belly type of person, which I can appreciate in politics.
You got to. You got to if you're gonna go against your party. I mean, even Thomas Massey, who's kind of in the same cut from the same cloth of Ron Paul in many regards, he's kind of this happy warrior. He still has a sense of defiance that belies his smiling demeanor. He's he's obviously very courageous. So I think that's what we need. We need more people like that. And from my own vantage point, I just get very frustrated that there's only Thomas Massey and MTG, and then there's 200 plus other scumbags as far as I'm concerned. And that's not going to make me any friends if I do end up running saying that, but it's the truth. None of these people actually represent America or Americans or America first at all. They're spending us into oblivion. They don't give a damn about the American people. They don't give a damn about justice. I mean, the fact that I don't know if you guys agree with this assessment. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I strongly believe that the Russian collusion was an attempt to basically soft coup Trump out of power, and they'll
1,000%.
And there'll be no justice for that. I mean, you have this report by Tulsi, the DNI,
Jen, we'll discuss this. I'll pull this up. Even though I think it's a distraction, but it doesn't mean it's not true. That's right. The difference. They're definitely doing that to distract from Epstein and Israel right now. But there is no question that is, Colin, I don't know if you have it, but I'll grab it. But, continue.
Yeah, but the point I'm making with it is like, that is a big deal, and even on the right, most people don't expect there to be any sort of prosecutions, even though Donald Trump was facing hundreds of years in prison. You have these people that committed arguably treason. I mean, according to Tulsi Gabbard, they committed treason. And everybody's expectation is they're not going to face prosecution. Then you have the Epstein cover up, which was egregious and blatant. And Trump participated in that. And there's going to be no prosecutions of any of the people that were the customers of this trafficking operation. You just have Ghislaine and Epstein, and that's it. And it's this is not good enough. This is a system that is not functioning in a way that delivers justice, so much so that the average American does not expect justice anymore. And once you get to that point, it's just chaos. I mean, nobody has any reason to respect the legal system, the laws in this country, because if the rich and powerful aren't held to account, well, then fuck you if you're going to try and hold me to account. And they should feel that way. I mean, that's honestly, if it doesn't apply to the rich and powerful, why should we honor this system any longer? So I think we need a tremendous amount of reform. People like Randy Fine he's not really my focus here. My focus is on much bigger things, but we need real reformers. We need people that really care about this country, about the Constitution, about the national debt. And are we going to actually have a country moving forward that focuses on Americans first or not? And the answer is, if we continue on the current paradigm and the current trajectory, the answer is no.
I think that this is, and what I will say, and this is what Jen, I think you would probably agree. This revelation regarding the whole Russiagate situation, and we obviously have had, we're very friendly with Matt Taibbi. He's been on a handful of times. He has been very adamant that this is one of the driving wedges that has divided the country, especially for the past decade. That this was a complete, alphabet agency cover up to the fact that they could never have anticipated that Trump was going to win. They were able to knock Bernie off because Bernie wasn't willing to fight the way that he should have in 2016, but Trump was willing to fight, and he ended up winning in a way that I don't think they expected, so they had to do something. And so now that Trump is caught up with the whole Epstein-Israel scandal, they have to throw red meat out there to basically say, okay, well, you want the truth about something else, we're going to give it to you. Not good enough, but 100% with what Tulsi says here, I agree with, and Jen, I think you would probably agree. So let's play this quickly.
One that doesn't just affect Democrats or Republicans. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue with such significant impact that it should concern every American, because it has to do with the fabric and integrity of our democratic republic. That we had a situation here where in the months leading up to the 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, in the early days of December, there was a president's daily brief that was drafted. This is put together by the different elements of the intelligence community that reflected that same assessment. Russia did not try to hack the election, in essence. That PDB, that document, was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published for the president to see that following morning. That document was never published until we released it yesterday. One day later, President Obama calls a meeting of his National Security Council, his top officials, to be held on what they called a sensitive topic. And the results of that meeting, which we released yesterday, and these over 100 documents that talk about in detail how President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence
the one thing I'm going to say, and the one thing that we should be clear about, I really am tired of people saying Obama did this, Obama did that. It's like, no, he is just a figurehead. Obama is not. Clint, did you ever see the that old SNL clip of Phil Hartman playing Ronald Reagan as the mastermind? Do you remember that one?
I'm sure I have seen it, but I don't remember it.
It's so great, but it basically mocks this whole idea that somehow, he's the mastermind of all these things that are going on. We have a shadow government that is owned and operated by corporate special interests. And if their interest wasn't to have Trump in power, they were going to do everything in their power to ensure that Hillary Clinton won, or at least if she didn't win, they were going to sabotage his entire presidency. I think that's true.
And I think that this case basically led to, well, along with the Maidan Revolution, I think it also led to the war in Ukraine. So this was, that puts us on the precipice of World War III, if not nuclear war, if not nuclear holocaust. Like this is about as big as it gets. I mean, as much as I care about the Epstein case, and I care about it tremendously because I think it's a blackmail operation against, the political elite. This is right up there with it, if not bigger. And it's just devastating that there's really no optimism in this country that we will see justice on either front. And that has to change. I mean, it just has to.
One of the things, Jen, I'm sure you remember, and I have no problem bringing this up now, at the time when we're first getting into politics, you think about the third rail and the things that you can't talk about, like Seth Rich. The story about Seth Rich, which I think is a much deeper than just him, because I have no doubt he's the leaker.
Are you finally allowing me to talk about Seth Rich? You've been telling me I can't talk about Seth Rich for 10 years.
Well, I didn't want our channel to get shut down. That was my own.
Okay.
So, but what I would like to hear your thoughts on, Jen, is not just Seth Rich, but people don't know this. And this is why I knew from the very beginning that the Russiagate stuff, from the second they went down this road, it was obvious that this was all bullshit, completely. And I didn't even know about the Steele dossier, which just adds to it. There was an attorney in South Florida that was investigating Wasserman Schultz and the Seth Rich connection. And he ended up dead on Hollywood Beach with 2 bullets in the back of his head. And that is still a case in Hollywood, Florida, that is unsolved. So the fact that it hasn't been addressed for a decade, and everyone knows what that attorney was up to, and ended up dead with 2 gunshot wounds. To me, it's don't ever talk to me about any of this other shit unless you're going to talk about what the real shit is. Jen, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting how these things just go away. There's never accountability. There is so rarely accountability at any level for any of it, whether it's why would the U.S. attorney that was investigating the issue in Broward about the election issue with Debbie and Brenda Snipes wash up dead on the beach in a suit. It's like, and yet there was no investigation into it, really. If you go look it up, you'll see very little about it. There's really not a whole lot. It's just like this random thing. And there's no accountability there. And there's no accountability for somebody like Seth Rich, who was mugged without anybody taking anything off of him. A lot of things like that. So why, and we don't have accountability. There's not going to be anything regarding the Epstein files. We don't have accountability from the JFK assassination.
Well, I'll give you another one is red meat to your audience is the 2008 banking crisis. The fact that, none of the bankers go to prison for that, despite the fact that they were, and I would add that it shouldn't just be the private level bankers. Fed chairs ought to be facing prosecutions. You ought to have the GSEs, the government sponsored enterprises, when it comes to Fannie and Freddie, who were basically signing off on, and the rating agencies when they're signing off on AAA on what is ultimately, BBB minus credit rating risk stuff that ultimately destroyed the entire global economy. Like, no, there is no justice at the highest levels. That's why I'm kind of formulating what my talking points will be about if I end up running. And I guess that's a big one for me, because it's just a very high priority for me, that I think that unless we can get a system that actually holds the powerful to account, particularly the political elite, it's like, well, then nothing's going to change. If you can't get these people behind bars, nothing will change. And it's unfortunate because I don't have any faith in Donald Trump doing that, and nor the rest of his cabinet. And I'm sure you guys feel similarly.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, this is a global problem because we're hosting war criminals. You want to talk about not holding people accountable. We're having somebody here who's wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes, and we're hosting him here and giving him a standing ovation. So, when you're not seeing accountability, and something you had touched on before that I thought was interesting, when you talk about, why would people follow rules when nobody follows the rules? Like, why would anybody have to follow rules? And I think that is a huge thing in this country. Like, we are in violation of so many international laws, us and the state of Israel. Okay. I mean, we are too independent of them. And so when you're a country, a nation that's a rogue nation, and you don't abide by international law, then why would you expect there to be lawfulness at home?
Oh, like exactly right.
That's what I think. Like, we are just completely lawless.
And this rots the moral foundation of your nation. And I strongly believe this, especially after the 20-year war on terror, that it has, like, a lot of the domestic issues that we're facing, where our culture seems to be, fraying at the edges, is a consequence of that. And from an Austrian economics perspective, I could point towards the inflation that comes from the printing press, which enables the infinity wars, and then the inflation that the domestic population deals with. Therefore, they can't get ahead. Therefore, they start to, care less about the nation. They also can't buy anything. They can't own anything. They can't own a house. They can't succeed in business. They can't get married. They can't have kids. This is all kind of downstream from a very corrupt top. And I think this is where the left and the right, particularly the populist wings, ought to be allied. Like, you guys won't agree with my prescriptions, but I think most will agree with my descriptions. And that's a starting point. That's a starting point that we can actually reach across the aisle and communicate with one another, and, maybe learn from each other. So I think that's what we need to be focused on, is that, like, it's not just the moral calamity that is killing 1 million Iraqis or overthrowing and destroying countless countries in the Middle East and elsewhere. It's deeper than that. We pay a price here at home. Yes. And I think that point is missed all too often. People are like, well, it's over there. It's 6,000 miles away. Who cares? It's like, no, dude, everything that you're facing today is a consequence of this. So yeah. It's important.
And not just, that's in a big picture, that's theoretical, and it's very particular too, because all of those people that went and served, that came home with PTSD and domestic violence and suicides and stuff. So there's a literal link, like, that's very direct. And then there's the indirect stuff, which is, we're just lawless, do whatever we want around the world. You're going to have that at home, and it's going to get worse.
Well, just think about the fact that we were in peace talks with the Iranians.
Yeah.
Well, what appears to have happened was either Israel acted against our will, or Trump just lied through his teeth to the Iranians during peace negotiations and made them feel as if they were okay. Well, all along they were planning on, not just bombing their nuclear facilities, which was dangerous enough, but using those overnight attacks at like 3 a.m. to take out or a third or whatever it is of their top leadership. It's just like, just consider the downstream effects of that. Who is ever going to negotiate with the Americans in good faith moving forward?
I wouldn't.
No, you would be.
I would have already not been negotiating with them after they pulled out of our last agreement that we were abiding.
No, and that's a fair point too. But I'm just saying, this is so egregious. Like, if you're negotiating with America, you have to expect that there's a decent chance that even while you're mid-negotiation, they may just kill a whole bunch of your top people. And it's like, well, then you're not dealing with a good faith actor. Like, we always want to portray the Iranians as these lunatic zealots, and I'm not fond of Iranian leadership in particular, but I'm just saying, like, we don't behave as this moral good actor that has the right to even say anything negative about foreign countries. And I think that has to change too. You cannot behave like this on the global scale. And then our top ally is committing war crimes on the daily. We just got done committing war crimes for the past 20 years, and it's I don't know. It's just we've lost any sort of moral high ground, and I think that has to change. It really does.
Well, we've lost any sort of credibility in the world. The world hates us. They're working around
justifiably,
us,
man.
BRICS or the Hague Group meeting in Colombia, trying to figure out how can we stop this genocide, but we keep getting vetoed at the UN.
Right.
It's like the world will eventually conspire against us, and the military might and the might makes right won't be able to solve everything. We have to actually get along with other people. And that is the problem. And it enrages me that we think that we have the right to tell Iran what they can and cannot have in their own country to begin with. Where the hell do we get off, especially when Israel has nukes and they're not even supposed to have nukes?
Well, not only that, but Israel also does not acknowledge their own nuclear arsenal, nor do they actually accede to any of the demands of the rest of the neoliberal world order, like the thing that we're allegedly defending when it comes to Russia invading Ukraine. It's like, you're all fucking frauds. Like, you're just all liars. And you just can't treat the rest of the world like that. And it's not, and just to be very clear, I'm not an egalitarian. I believe that cultures are superior or inferior. I like America and Americans more than I like the Muslim world. Just being totally honest about that. But that doesn't mean that we get to abuse people just because we don't like their culture as much as ours. It's an absurd way to look at the world. It ultimately creates bad blood and terrorism and all the things that will ultimately end up not just jeopardizing our lives, but also ultimately diminishing our civil liberties. I mean, the Palantirs and the rollout of the AI surveillance and all that stuff that they've been basically like perfecting in Gaza is going to be used domestically in short order. And it's all a consequence of us just acting like psychopaths.
Let me ask you this. So this brings me to something I wanted to ask you your thoughts on, because I am curious. So like, I actually went up to Atlanta at one point to protest the cop city that's being that was constructed up there. And we know that there's probably 100 or so of them around the country at this point that have been put up in various areas. But my question for you is, how do you feel about the militarization of police departments? And
I've opposed it for decades.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, so because to me, that's one of the biggest links is then we're taking these people that are suffering from PTSD and we're employing them to be like Gestapo here at home, hiring them at ICE, people that are whatever, and creating this militarized police state. And I know that you're big into civil liberties and you see our First Amendment rights have been being completely annihilated by this police state mentality.
For sure. I mean, not just First Amendment, but Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, whatever. I can't remember which all of them are.
Militarized policing.
No, not at all. I mean, here's the unfortunate reality, though, is that the Democrats played a big role in worsening this dynamic because they had the open border policy under Biden. Bringing in that many people and having the cities basically just like the local PD being so outmanned. I have sympathy at the same time as like, I do not want to see the police departments militarized. I don't want to see the border militarized, but you have to have a nation still. So where do you find that balance?
Well, let me ask you, I think I'm curious about this because I don't really know the answer. Like, so for me, I understand why you wouldn't want anybody to just come here and get benefits. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. And I understand why you wouldn't want people to just come here and become a citizen. Right? Like, I think there need to be steps to that. Like, I don't have any issue with any of that. What bothers me is, but why do we really care if someone comes here? Like, let's say somebody comes across the border and they're paying to live or they're working or whatever. It's like, they're not getting benefits from anything, right? Like, this is not somebody who's registered, because the truth is people that are here undocumented, they don't get benefits. That's a misnomer. They don't get benefits. There's nothing they can get. And in a lot of cases, they pay a lot of taxes into the system. But
that's not entirely true. I mean, you have, I grew up in San Diego, so I know this firsthand. A lot of illegal immigrants, first off, because of birthright citizenship, like a lot of their kids end up being citizens. They get to go to public school, but also their father is not working above board. He's working under the table. He's not paying taxes. So,
but that's also not, and he probably would rather be working above board and being able to like live here legally.
Sure. There's reforms that can be made. Yeah.
What I'm saying is there's better ways we can treat people on their path to becoming citizens where they are working and contributing people. But my point is there's no need to treat people the way we treat them. You don't need to be treated like you're being chased down for murder just because you're here undocumented. I think that
the problem is we don't know who is and who isn't. I mean, that's
now they're just grabbing citizens off the street and rounding them up now.
But let's be
right.
and I was just in San Diego for the first time a couple months ago. And what I experienced there, especially in Old Town, is that the culture is so rich, it's so dense. I love Mexican culture. I think it's great.
Me too.
But the real issue here is that why? People still don't want to talk about the why. The reason we have a mass undocumented crisis in the United States is because we are ruled by psychopathic multinational corporations and oligarchs. And for them, they want, if they could get away with slavery, they would employ you. They would just not pay you anything. They would just put you in chains and have you work in the fields. And that's it. The only thing that is of importance to them is the bottom line. Humanity is removed.
Well, that's totally true. But I think it's important to understand that's also the Democratic Party. I mean,
no disagreement.
No,
this isn't a partisan thing. This is a class warfare thing.
I know.
And let me take it a step further. I actually think it's worse on the Democratic side than the Republican side, because it is obvious that the Democrats are using it for. People think it's a conspiracy. I don't. I think it is 1,000% accurate that they have sanctuary cities and they have these areas in very specific states because they want to increase their vote shares. That is a huge part of it. There is no question, because of what we've learned is that when people are looking around and thinking, why are you kowtowing to this very specific demographic and you're screwing over everybody else? Because to them, they're looking at it as, well, if we get them on board, they're going to be voting for us, and no one's going to leave the Democratic Party plantation. They're going to stay right here like they've always stood for generations. And that is their calculus. I'm sorry, but it's just so obvious that that's what it is.
No, I agree with every word you just said. But I would also add that it's not just the evil corporations that want slave labor. It's not just the Democratic Party. It's also the NGO networks. It's also the United Nations. They have billions and billions of dollars that go to fund this stuff. So they want to have mass migration from the third world into the first world. So your question about, like, should we be treating these people better? It was very easy to treat immigrants and even illegal immigrants in a kind fashion when the flow was at least somewhat organic, because people were just coming across for a better life. They were just coming across for an opportunity at a better life to work. That's not what we've seen over the past decade. It has changed. The dynamic has changed. The messaging that the NGOs and the UN were giving to these people, particularly, I mean, just look at what's happened in Europe. I mean, these people have been told, go there to get free shit. I mean, that's what they're telling people. So once you start to advertise to the immigrants, when I'm talking millions and millions of immigrants, and the message used to be, if you get to America, you can work under the table and you'll make more than you made at home. Those people are good people. I don't have a problem with those people.
I've worked with them for many years living in New Jersey.
Exactly. And I lived in San Diego in the real estate field. I worked with countless. I've got no beef with them at all. But I'm just saying, that character of person is different from someone who is given a debit card with a couple grand on it and given a map and given a smartphone and told, get on this train, then walk across this path. And then once you get there, this is how you apply. This is what city you go to. This is how you apply for a social safety net, how you get free housing, how you get that's just not a healthy thing. And I don't want people like that here. That's where I part ways with the old guard of the Libertarian Party, which, by the way, I think that civil war that happened within the LP was a product of the Koch brothers, who were most interested in open borders policy because of what you described earlier, that they wanted cheap labor. Yeah. So I am not an open borders libertarian. I think in a perfect world, maybe, but we're so far away from that. We cannot have a social safety net. We cannot have a warfare state that creates refugees to the tune of millions and then have an open border with people who are rightfully and justifiably furious with us. And then we don't have any vetting process, in which case you have some small percentage. Yes, it's a fraction of a fraction that come across that want to hurt us badly. And then they do. And then you have Patriot Act 2.0. And then you have to think about these things, long term.
Right. No, and I agree that they use things like that then to further crack down on our civil liberties, which is the whole thing. And that is something that I'm always very vigilant about. Like, no matter what happens, whatever bleeding heart thing that happens, I'm always able to see how it's going to then be used against us and to affect our civil liberties. And I take that very seriously. So,
and can I just add one other thing about it? I also think that, you know, I didn't used to think of immigration and the changing of our cultural fabric in the way that I do today. You know, I do think that there's something to be said about the uniqueness of the founding of America, gun rights, speech rights, privacy rights, things of that nature that immigrants are just not going to value as much as someone that's, I mean, not all of them, but a big chunk of them will not value as much as the domestic population does. And if you have a plan to increase, I mean, which you already described, and we agree that Democrats are doing so for census purposes to get more representation in blue states so that they can control the House. Then you work towards amnesty, which allows for them to actually be voters, which then you know that the first couple generations are going to vote Democrat. I just think that this is obviously a manipulation of the voting demographics to try and diminish some of the rights that I value most. And I am not willing to stand idly by or sit by passively while that happens. So this is a very unpopular opinion amongst libertarians, but I have researched this in depth. I hope you guys can tell. And I think that I'm right. I think that this is basically a globalist op to try and destroy this country. And I'm not okay with it.
With that said, we obviously are very appreciative anytime you have a chance to come on.
I appreciate it, guys. Yeah.
When will you be making your decision as to whether or not you will run against Randy Fine?
Yeah, I had a long conversation with one of the guys who was responsible for helping deliver Pennsylvania to Trump. So I was really appreciative of him. I don't know if he'd want it public, so I won't say his name. But
no, yeah, don't.
Yeah, he gave me a lengthy kind of primer on what it would entail, how much money would need to be raised to be viable / how much to win.
Right.
And it's daunting. I mean, especially given that I'm not willing to sell out. You know, it's going to require grassroots along the lines of a Ron Paul revolution / Thomas Massie kind of groundswell of support. And am I the guy that can create that? I don't know. I certainly have built the contacts to get on big platforms and to, you know, give myself an opportunity at creating that snowball that I would need to prevail. Yeah. But I'm going to have a hour-long conversation with him, with his entire team next week. And I've already talked to my family. They've given me the thumbs up, but I haven't given myself the thumbs up at this point. So give me, you know, I'm going to decide sometime probably late August.
Okay. Well, this is what I want to say. So I would be very happy if you ever want to talk about like what that's like and what's entailed in terms of running campaigns. For sure. And I also would be very happy to help you.
I appreciate that.
I cannot stand that man. And I recognize that it's like you are someone that we can be reasonable and have some negotiations on things, right? So
for sure, yeah. Trust me,
I
would be an improvement even with our serious disagreements. A dramatic improvement.
I'd be happy to help you, and in whatever we can. And when you talk about doing it with a way while maintaining integrity, not being bought, being able to do it as small dollar donations and grassroots, that's what we've done.
Yep. And that's the only way I will proceed. Like I have to have a chance at winning because I don't want to waste a year of my life if I don't have a chance. Agreed. And two, I have to do it I have to have a chance at winning without selling my soul.
Yeah.
And if I can't do that, well then fuck it in the first place. I have no interest in doing that at all. So, you know, it's either in the Ron Paul, Thomas Massie lane or it's not going to happen.
Don't mind our
Oh my God, Debbie, Jesus.
It's somebody that I think it's Declan. That's my new guess. I think it's Declan from one of our original trolls when we first started.
Here's why I think you have a chance. And obviously I've been in the trenches with this lady for several years. I do think that the first go around could have been different. The second time I knew she couldn't win because she made a conscious moral choice to go after Debbie on the grounds of Israel in deep South Florida, but it was the right thing to do. Here's where I think it's different for you. The district that you're trying to run in is not a pro-Israel district. So let's start with that. This is not a psychopathic Zionist district that you're trying to represent.
It isn't.
This behemoth of a human is a detestable scumbag.
He's so bad.
Everyone within the party infrastructure hates him The only reason he's there is because Miriam Adelson told Trump to get him in there. That's the only reason he's there.
Yep.
So you already have a plethora of reasons against him.
He's not popular.
No. So there's that.
And he didn't, I mean, I think he won by like 10 points or something, but in a pretty blood red area. So he underperformed terribly. I honestly think I would have a real shot at beating this guy. Like that's,
I do. I think
that's the main reason I'm considering it.
Yeah.
And we need another Thomas Massey in there. I just want to like have someone else in there that can back him up. And like, I want it to be someone other than me, but like, I guess I'm the guy. So
I feel you. I feel you.
Willing to do it. That's a huge step. And so what I would also say is, you know what the baseline is? The baseline is $1 million and the winning number is probably 2 million. And if you have the ability to raise that capital, obviously in that district, again, Brevard County, I can't really say one way or the other what the specifications would be as far as like TV ad shares and all that, but it's probably a much more accessible district. Like you can walk it, you can door knock it, you can get people involved. But the key is going to be all of these relationships you've cultivated over the past several years. Will Tim Pool have you on? Will Luke have you on? Will all of the America First supporters get behind you? And then you have an even more unique component, which is the true populist left hate him just as much, if not more.
Right.
So you will have frenemies, if you will, who will say, I may not support you in a number of your political endeavors, but I know you're an honest operator and I will support you to get that guy out of power.
Well, exactly. And I think it's a closed primary, I think. So I don't think that they could vote for me, but they could contribute to my campaign. So I think that would be a really interesting alliance of like the populist left and right just funneling money into this kind of renegade campaign to unseat one of the worst swamp monsters that exists. I would think it'd be a huge win for the populists, period. So we'll see.
Yeah. And certainly for anti-war. And that's a huge thing for me. Like that's actually right now the top priority for me.
And on top of everything else, you would be running in a district where a lot of these kids get sent off to war. And the one thing about these places, especially in deep red central Florida, anyone who has experienced Iraq and Afghanistan is basically anti-war at this point. And so people don't know what they don't know until they know. And now they know what they're dealing with. And if somebody like you is on the campaign trail, and again, from this Tuesday, it's 13 months, and you said you'll decide in about a month's time, if you have a year to get your message out there, that is going to be more than enough time because you will have an infrastructure in place that Jen did not have in order to make sure that everyone knows about this. And if they do, I think it could be a lightning in a bottle type situation.
And it would have to be to win. It's going like the guy I talked to, he said it would be, I need 3 million to be viable. I would need 5 million to win. Like he thinks I could win with 3 million, but he's like, if you get 5 million, because he believes that they're going to funnel massive money to try and keep me out.
But who's this guy? Okay, so here's the thing, and we could talk about this another time, like whenever you want to really talk about it. Be very careful in terms of consulting people, whether or not and here's the thing, whether or not they know your district and have worked in Florida and know that it really does make a difference. And how much money someone is saying you need. Also, you have to be aware of how much are they thinking of a percentage of that would be theirs or their consultant friend.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
And
of course.
You are talking about running a grassroots campaign, especially as a right populist. That's not very common. There's not that many people that Republican that run populist that run without any corporate money or any PAC money or whatever like that.
Right. Well,
so to be able to do that, you need people who know how to do that.
I agree.
And if you follow our guidance, I'm telling you right now, you raise $1 million, you're viable. You raise 2 million, you can win.
Because what you're looking at doing, and what this is the thing with a lot of the consultant people and the real like establishment people, they don't really understand how to motivate grassroots and what that looks like and what that doesn't cost in money.
Yeah, you guys would understand that better than I do, for sure, too.
And that's what I'm saying. So like they, of course, are looking at what they would need to get it done, because they're looking at all the big money that has to be spent. But at the end of the day, what this comes down to is how many doors you knock on and how many people you meet. And if that is done by people on a mission, especially people that are volunteering, it's a different vibe.
Yeah, that reduces the buy-in for sure.
It does,
then,
and you also need to be careful who you affiliate with in terms of getting advice and consulting and how much, because they will bring in people that will overcharge, and that has to do, like, they will waste an inordinate amount of money on a campaign that doesn't need to be spent. And that is just what the consultant class does. So just be aware.
And above everything else, know who your city council members are. Know who the county commission is. Brevard County Commission. You got to know every one of those guys. You got to find out who the allies are, even if they have to do it behind the scenes. They will probably not do it publicly. Lord knows Randy Fine is already fortifying his positions. He is trying to get everybody in line to make sure that he can rule that kingdom for the next 2 decades, if he lives that long. But I would definitely say that it would make sense to know who those people are, but the real, what I would consider, I'm trying to think of the right word.
Is this district all in one county?
No, but Brevard is the primary county.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's part of, I think part of Orange County is in it as well, and a couple of other places. Space Coast, it's like that region over there.
Yeah.
But what I will say is the wild card that you have, the ace up your sleeve, is if you somehow convince DeSantis to come out against him, because he hates his guts. He absolutely hates his guts. And if you can get this, and if you can, hey, listen, maybe it's a political trade-off. You would even tell him, listen, I'll support your wife for governor. I need your support against Randy Fine. And frankly, I think Casey is going to have a lot more of that grassroots support as a Floridian than Byron Donalds is going to have. He's already having his own issues, especially attaching himself to the hip on everything with Trump. Not a smart move.
So that's very interesting. I'll think about that seriously. I have once I have this hour meeting, if I do that, then I have to basically get the ball rolling. But then the plan after that would be to meet with Rand Paul, meet with Thomas Massie in DC, meet with their PAC, because they have PACs that are like actually outsider liberty minded candidates.
Yes.
But they only fund a few guys. But if they pick you, they fund you heavily, and they basically just want you to be a savage. And it's like, well, that's all I know how to be. So
more than once.
I know. I'm like, trust me, I don't know how to not do that. So if that's what they're looking for, it's just going to come down to, like, do they think I'm viable? Am I serious? Do I convey my message in a way that's compelling, but also not so antagonistic that I rub people the wrong way? We'll find out. I don't know. Okay. It's going to be interesting, but I'll keep you guys posted. Yeah. Like I said, I should decide in a month, but I will absolutely pick both of your brains as to how to go about this, because if I do it, I'm playing for keeps. So we'll see.
Well, and I'd be very happy to help you. I really would. I'd be happy to
really appreciate
work for you and do. Yeah, no, completely. I mean, that piece of shit has to go.
Facts.
So there's that.
Go enjoy your Saturday night out. Thank you as always.
Thank you so much, Clint.
Have a good night.
Thanks, brother. So if you guys did enjoy that conversation, which some of you did, some of you didn't, and that's okay. We don't have to.
We have people in every direction, but I like that. I like that for us.
But again, as I said, the thing about Clint that you have to remember is that you can talk to him. You can find ways to collaborate because he's not a corrupt fuck. And unlike this person right there, because that person is a great example of that.
Honestly, at this point right now, my priority right now is to stop killing people.
Yeah.
Okay. That is my number one priority, is to stop the killing. And so I will align with anti-war people in pretty much any capacity.
I agree.
I don't have to agree with him on immigration. I don't have to agree with him on that. If you're going to stop the killing, then we can work together. Let's stop that first. Let's just triage. We have to stop killing people around the world. We have to stop spending money just to kill. We're ridiculous.
If you are so inclined, make sure you go to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. We've gotten up to about 215, 220 live stream viewers tonight, considerably better than Thursday. But hey, we appreciate each and every one of you being here. And again, Jordan Jardine, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. It was a great conversation. JM, thank you again for the $2 to get us started. Sailor Jerry Swallow, thank you so much for the 2 Canadian A. Love your shows. We love you being here, my friend. Our super awesome supporter, JG1982, gifting another 5 revolutionary.
Honestly, JG 1982 is going to get our memberships up there for us, because once people join, they're going to love us so much they'll stay.
Oh, they love us. You like me. You really like us. Jamie Slomiak, great to see you, my friend. The $2. Israel isn't a signatory to the NPN checkmate gen. I agree with that. Look who decided to show up this evening. Roger Meadows, good to see you, sir. Thank you for the $2. Just got here. I see no number or Zoom. Oh, you got here late, my friend. You actually got, well, you did. You know what? Well, we don't do the super chats all the time.
Okay, so wait. It took me a second. So the one before that was that about how Israel's not a signatory to the non-proliferation treaty. Is that what that is? That what that was? Mm-hmm. And so, what I don't understand what he was getting at.
I'm not sure either, but
okay. So what he's getting at is that I was saying that they're not in compliance, but he's saying, well, they're not a signatory. That's true. But they also secretly have what they're not supposed to have, according to the agency that would oversee it. So I understand what you're saying, that they're not a signatory, but then why do they keep it so secretive? And then why are we supporting a country to have nuclear weapons that aren't a signatory? And if we are, and we're okay with it, then why do we keep it a secret that Israel has nuclear weapons? Why do we always deny that?
Good point. And again, Roger, we are doing a call-in show every other Saturday. So keep that in mind.
At least as long as Peter can make me keep doing it.
I could drag Jen out, but usually the first Saturday and the third Saturday of the month is when you get that. On the other Saturdays, I will be doing the solo pontificating with Pete. To it. Damn it. I was actually going to pull that up. It's pretty good. You actually got me a little quicker. But yes, that is our new... that is well, yeah. That's Jen being.
To me, that's basically you, but just without the beers. You're whatever watching your sporty games.
We'd be watching our sporty. What was the game you were talking about before? Gaelic
football. No, it's not soccer. They call in Ireland. They call soccer. Or soccer. They don't call it football. They call it soccer. Yeah. I was in Galway, and it was also the same when I was in Dublin. Like soccer is soccer. Gaelic football is football, and rugby is rugby, and they're all different.
JG 1982, thank you so much for the $5. It's racist policies and immigration, natural demographics predict USA to be non-white majority by 2040. I thought it was 2050. No conspiracy. It's infuriating as Hispanic native. Again, as I've said, that so much of what is done by puppet masters at the top that control the system. And they do the things that they want to do based on where they want certain people to be and so forth. And that is just, again, we see each other as non-equals because people don't believe in cultural diversity, or at least some people don't.
Also, people think that race is a real thing.
It's a construct, as Jen says.
No, it's not as Jen says. It's as science says.
As science says. Jamie, thank you again for the $5. Peter, I agree that in many in red districts who have been to war vote against it, though I haven't seen it permeate the follow-up generation. F war, we agree. I think that those changes are coming, though. They're coming because we're noticing the difference that people have regarding Israel and Ukraine and obviously China. So we will see how that unfolds as we go forward. So, with that said, whoop-de-frickin-do, Stephen Colbert lost his job the other day. Now,
do I need to sit here for this? Are you going to go in? Wait, look. We could start it right now. We could do the background music. You could start your whole pontification. Right
I've got two stories to cover. One is going to be the connection with Zohran and Colbert, and one is also going to be Zohran leaning into the capitulating on the idea that he can't say globalize the Intifada, which is all bullshit.
All right, hold on before we're done. Is it Jaime or Jamie? Jaime or Jamie? I'm just asking. I was parroting the nonsensical Hasbara. Yeah, I'm glad you said. I'm glad you said that. I was thinking it was kind of weird, but yeah, it is definitely political Hasbara.
Fair enough. And the other thing we wanted to mention is that it has been reported that the senator from Vermont has told Zohran that he should not talk about Israel so much. It's not a good thing politically. I don't agree with that. I think he should talk about it as much as humanly possible. So here is a clip, first from Zohran sitting with Stephen Colbert right before his election.
The state of Israel have the right to exist?
Jen, do they?
No, in fact, they do not have the right to exist.
I was just checking.
I support the vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state.
Mr. Mamdani, same question. Does the state of Israel have the right to exist?
Yes, like all nations, I believe it has a right to exist and a responsibility also to uphold international law.
Okay, well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, is that there are many people in New York, even people who would support your candidacy otherwise, who don't want to support you because of the Jewish community's fear of the true and rising anti-Semitism, not only around the world, but in this country and shamefully in New York, which is the largest Jewish population of any city other than Tel Aviv.
This is me playing the world's smallest violin for those Jewish people. Right. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
In the whole world. And they are worried. They're very upset by some of the things that you've said in the past. And they are afraid that your mayorship would actually lead to increased anti-Semitism, that they believe that that would be more dangerous for them. What do you say to those New Yorkers who are afraid that you wouldn't be their mayor, that you...
So
let me. I'd say you're a bunch of fucking bigots. You're a bunch of fucking bigots. That's what I would say. That's what I would say to those people. That you're bigots. Anywho. Okay.
You know, Steve, all this time that you kowtowed to corporate special interests to get that $15 million a year paycheck is now no more. So maybe now that you aren't getting that money, maybe you'll tell us how you really feel about what's going on, instead of taking these fucking talking points and saying, oh, yes, absolutely. Let's talk about Israel and how unsafe these Jewish students feel and how these wealthy Upper East Siders feel. Meanwhile, you're committing a genocide. Period.
You wouldn't protect them.
You know, I know where that fear is coming from. It's a fear that is based upon the horrific attacks we've seen in Washington, D.C., in Boulder, Colorado. It's
all the way from Jews will not replace us to today.
And it's a fear that I hear also from New Yorkers themselves. You know, just a few days after the horrific war crime of October 7th, a friend of mine told me about how he went to his synagogue for Shabbat services, and he heard the door open behind him, and a tremor went up his spine as he turned around, not knowing who was there and what they meant for him. I spoke to a Jewish man in Williamsburg just months ago who told me that the door he left unlocked for decades is now one that he locks. And ultimately, this is because we're seeing a crisis of anti-Semitism. And that's why.
No, it's because those people that are doing that, if they didn't do it prior to October 7th, are snowflakes. That's why. They're just uncomfortable because nothing has changed in terms of their level of safety, anything having to do with anything since then. So, you know, that's just, yeah, that's why. He's being overly generous right now is what I think. He's being overly generous.
He is. We'll finish it up.
At the heart of my proposal for a Department of Community Safety is a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. Because to your point, anti-Semitism is not simply something that we should talk about. It's something that we have to tackle. We have to make clear there's no room for it in this city, in this country, in this world.
And no justification for violence of any kind?
No, there is.
Yeah, that includes the Palestinian people, Stephen.
Well, the fact that he felt the need to add that, like, you need, including no violence, like, what is he talking about? By the way, Stephen Colbert has never been funny on his own. He was only funny in his character on the Daily Show. And that was a character that he played. We liked the character. Once he started actually just being himself, he's not been funny. So I don't understand this. This is very annoying to me. He's like trying to box him in.
We'll finish it up.
No room for violence in this city, in this country, in this world. And what I have found also from many New Yorkers is an ability to navigate disagreement.
There is disagreement, but then there is taking things to a point where it makes absolutely no sense. What Bernie Sanders told Zohran Mamdani about anti-Semitism and pushing back on Democratic leaders, but also to more carefully address what he said about Israel. Sanders, who is Jewish, like we didn't know that, urged Mamdani to be cautious about how he approaches talking about Israel. According to a person familiar with their conversation, Sanders told Mamdani he had to do a better job explaining that his criticism is not anti-Semitic and to not let himself seem like he's minimizing the fear Jews in New York and elsewhere feel from the threat of hate against them. Jen, why would Jews be facing any type of hatred right now? Do you have?
Well, obviously, yeah, we know why, but again, I don't know that they are. I don't believe this. I have not seen or heard first-person testimony from a person that felt fearful, as a Jewish person that has felt fearful for their safety. I have not seen it. I have not heard it. All I hear are people saying that there's people that feel like that. So I don't know that. I don't necessarily believe it. I think it's a ridiculous talking point. I cannot fathom a fucking reason why any Jewish person in this country would feel fearful. And quite honestly, at this point, if you do, you should just end it now because you will not survive this fucking world. That's what I think.
But it didn't end there because this was a clip from, I believe, 1 or 2 nights ago where Zohran went on with, I forget the gentleman's name. I think it comes up on the queue. But bottom line, they're now getting him to talk about not saying the term globalize the Antifada. Well, first of all, it's not like he said it, but even if he did, to pretend like you don't know what it means, which is free Palestine in another connotation, whatever. But this is what they're spending their time on when they interview.
Phrase that might not be central to the conversation becomes a stumbling block. How would you, as the mayor of all New Yorkers, how would you sort of bridge or navigate that?
I think by refocusing on what has caused so many New Yorkers anguish, especially in this moment. You know, it was just a few months ago that I met a New Yorker in Brooklyn who told me of how more than 80 members of her family had been killed by the Israeli military in Gaza. This is a devastation that many New Yorkers are feeling personally. It's one that for others they are witnessing on a day-to-day basis. And it continues until today. You know, just last week, NBC News reported that the Israeli military bombed a health clinic in Gaza, killing 10 children, including a 1-year-old who had just uttered his first words hours before. We are speaking of a place that is now home to the greatest number of child amputees in modern history. And what offends so many in our city, this horror, is one that is subsidized by our country. And
now that was a great statement. And I understand that he has to play the role of politician. I understand people's fears and concerns, but like I said, to this point, the one thing that he's done that we agree on was not a good move was hiring one of the true Democratic.
It's all downhill from there. What happened to us?
You touched something.
I didn't mean to. All right, here we go. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
But I think it is obvious that Zohran is trying to do what he can to navigate this minefield. And we do have to give him some grace, but for the love of God, they are not going to let up on painting him as an anti-Semite. And at the same time,
trying to weasel their way on the inside and convert him over to be a shill for them. It's both things are happening at the same time.
100%. Guys, there is a genocide happening right now.
Can I talk about this? Anti-cult, it's not antifada, it's intifada with an I. And it is not, well, I mean, I guess it also would be anti-fascist, but the intifada is a term for rise up. It means rise up, revolution, and it's been done very non-violently in the past as well. So the fact that they have their panties in a bunch over a war, and I love when they call it the intifada, because that's what all of they call it, the intifada.
Half a frittata. There you go.
Yeah, but an intifada it's not anything other than people standing up in whatever capacity. So, again, this is all just so absurd. It's just, and so these people are so ignorant.
Well, I love that they're freaking out the way that they're freaking out. Like, to me, that's a great sign. I like that they're concerned.
I like that they're concerned. The big concern I have is who he is surrounded with and who he has hired and the direction that they're taking it. And what this is starting to look like right now isn't necessarily backtracking on stuff that he said, but even the level of clarification that he's feeling the need to give is a little bit too it's a little too soft for the fucking snowflakes. Pull on your fucking big girl pants. People would stop not liking you if you weren't such a fucking pussy. That's what I feel like with these people.
Yeah, but they're not going to stop. But here's hoping that Zohran crosses that finish line. It's going to be a hell of a ride. And we've got, what are we in, July?
Exactly, Rob. That's something that I find frustrating too, is that when people get called out, so Rob saying it would be great if Zohran explained the meaning of intifada to the masses. Exactly. And this is something that's really I didn't mean to do that, Travers. This is something I've been saying for a really long time. And this was particularly frustrating to me. If you guys remember back when they were questioning the university presidents about what was happening on campus and do you speak out against this and how do you support that? And not one of those people took the opportunity to tell them what intifada actually means, that is an anti-Semitic. None of them actually said it out loud. They all just sort of played mealy mouth and just sort of tried to like nobody takes the opportunity to educate people on what they're talking about and call them out. So when you have some moron like Elise Stefanik sitting there saying to you, well, do you support a genocide or do you support genociding the Jews by saying something like, the intifada, long live the intifada. And instead of one of those women saying to her, well, that's not what that means. This is what that means. They just don't. It's so frustrating. Yeah.
And the one thing I will mention about Colbert before we go is that his show was costing $100 million a year, and it was losing over $40 million a year. And that's why it's been booted from network television, because it's not profitable in any way. And again, it's one thing if it's a break-even show and people just happen to like it because they think it's delivering some type of a political message that's helping the Democratic Party, which of course has been the intention for the past probably 6-7 years, maybe even longer, probably since the election in 2016. His show is not good. And what's amazing is his show is good compared to somebody like Jimmy Kimmel, who I hope is next. And so these corporate talking heads, it's going to be over for pretty much all of them. And remember, they're in a situation right now where Trump is in power and they're not able to maintain it, which shows you that it's a dying industry. So Colbert is the first. There will be others.
No, and the truth is all those shows are going down. Just like when I was growing up, I was just talking about this the other day. When I was growing up, everything was, you had laugh track sitcoms and variety shows. So now it's been late night talk taking up. Like, it wasn't always this way. And the truth is that more and more people are not watching that stuff. But what I wanted to say, somebody mentioned Linda Sarsour, and that she had tried to explain intifada and that it didn't go over well. I think the Canadian Socialist said that. And there's a difference between Linda Sarsour saying it and the president of UPenn. Okay. And the difference is that Linda can be incendiary. I like her. I think she's great. I have no problem with her, but she's not somebody that is going to calmly hold the libs' hands and try to explain to them calmly and softly not to be scared. That's just not her. That's not her bag. But I do think that if certain people would make it a priority to call out when when people are saying things wrong, that it would be better.
I would agree. What I would also say is that in terms of like late night TV shows, listen, I still think Jon Stewart is great, even though he has had missteps, no two ways about it. But he is a great mind, and he is one of the few prominent members of the Jewish community who supports the Palestinian people. So anytime you have somebody like that, you have to give, you got to give it up. And then, you know, I also think that, it's the British guy's name, John Oliver. I think John Oliver does some decent content as well. And again, you don't have to agree with all of it, but in terms of who's left and who actually provides any decent content, well, Phil, let's hope that that's not what we're heading for. But so much of what we see online is a reflection of just that. Before we go off the air for the evening, we do have a couple of more super chats.
This is interesting. So this is a better description. So Mo Doing Thing says intifada means uprising against injustice, while jihad just means struggle. Okay, that's good to know. I never had a problem with the word jihad. Doesn't bother me.
Hala Hamed, thank you so much for the $9.99 super sticker. We really appreciate any and all support that you guys provide. It has been a heck of a show this evening. We ended up talking with Clint a lot longer than I thought we would, but we always have a great conversation with him. We appreciate you all calling in. And also, if you would be so inclined, remember, guys, we do have a merch shop, and all of the merch that is purchased, the money from that goes directly to Heal Palestine. So if you are looking to get involved and make a difference, this is one of the ways that you can. Jen, do you have maybe on Monday, but if you have, or you know, I might be there on Monday, so we'll see. Model some of the new stuff. I don't know if you have any of it.
What do you mean model the new stuff?
You know, shirt, the mug, you know, things.
How could I do that?
Well, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it.
Do you not know how those stores work, Peter?
Kind of.
Peter doesn't understand how those stores work. So guys, we do have a merch store. Let me do this. We have a merch store, and there is a whole series of stuff in the merch store that says feel enraged, get engaged. And with our little rage-o-meter, and the stuff, anything that we get from that, I'm going to send to Heal Palestine, really just as a matter of just constantly keeping that in the conversation, more so than I think whatever little amount of money we're going to send them in a month is going to really help them. But it's just to keep everybody aware of Heal Palestine, and it's part of my enraged concept. But Peter, the way the store works is there is no actual existing stock. There's no stock, which is why it's so much better. All the t-shirts that I had to figure out what sizes to have, and I would have the wrong size. Like, it's such a pain in the ass. So the way it works now, Peter, in this new world is we're linked to a store. And if somebody likes a piece, they go in there and they order it, and then it's made and sent to them. There is no stock. So I cannot show you the merch, but we do have a store. It says feel enraged, get engaged. And yeah, that's the stuff. And then there's stuff that's just our new logo, which I still actually think is really cool. Anywho.
I think it's pretty cool too. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, especially if you're new here. I think we've done some decent numbers tonight. Also, make sure that you share the stream as soon as we are off the air. Two things. Number one, leave a comment if you can, and we will have a clip dropping in 5 minutes. So please check that out. Make sure you like it. Make sure you comment on it. Make sure you share it. Any and all help that you can provide is tremendously appreciated. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful evening.
Wait, what are we doing? Well, I was going to say Free Palestine, but you didn't say what we had on Monday.
Well, on Monday, we are having, forgive me, I don't want to botch this, but we are having a guest from the Middle East who has I think a cooking channel. Cooks.
Yeah, no, Rachel gave me all the information. I know. Yeah, no, I have it. She'll probably put it in the chat before I can find it, but that's the thing. Yeah. We're having an interesting guest on Monday.
Yes, we are. And then on Thursday, we will finally have that lady, the thing.
The thing, the thing.
Maura Finkelstein will be a guest. She is a former professor at Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania. She stood up for the Palestinian people. And even though she's Jewish, that doesn't matter with the Zion Nazis. So she was kicked out, and she will be joining us on Thursday. And of course, tomorrow, not tomorrow, so at least enjoy it one more day. On Monday, we will be speaking Blanche from Feast in the Middle East. So there you go. All righty.
There it is. All right, guys. Free Palestine. Exactly.
Free Palestine. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.